Hello, and welcome to the Humanity, where we do things with stuff for the people. I am Matt.
And I'm Tommy, and this is my new shirt that I'm so proud of. It's like a frog with a hat and human arms making finger guns. And so, happy Autism Awareness Month, everybody. The
Oh,
last
it
day of
still is,
which,
isn't it?
yeah, just till
It's
today.
almost not.
Yeah, we just made it. So, we figured, last week we talked about the autism. So we figured, hey, there's probably more to say about it because
There's
it's
always
one of our
more to say.
yeah, it's one of our special interests lately, which,
Uh-huh.
that's like, yeah, having like autism be one of your special interests is like the most autistic thing ever. It's like layers. Anyway,
Yeah,
uh,
and somebody's like, you might want to, pay a little less attention to the news. Like, I can't. It's all I'm
I
thinking
mean,
about.
someone has to, right?
Well, I believe very strongly in um, just knowing things have happened, so that
Hmm,
things don't happen to people in a vacuum. Um,
right.
because if you know about it and something bad happens to them, well now, and if that bothers you, now they have an advocate in the general public. Maybe not for them
Hmm.
specifically, but for people like them,
Right.
and that's important.
Indeed. Yeah. And, but speaking of like you specifically, like obsessing over the news or whatever, I mean, if you didn't, then I'd have no idea what was going on because you're basically my source whenever I can handle it, that is. But yeah.
I so if you can only handle one thing and you can almost handle the news, I would say the Daily Show, um,
Mm,
especially Monday nights with Jon Stewart.
yeah.
Um, they they covered the processing of the news,
Hmm.
um, in funny ways, but yeah,
Right.
it's more
Yes,
of
at
like
least it's
a
also yeah.
community kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's a comedy show, but which is nice, but also like they are talking about real events, so it is a way to, even if it's not necessarily getting like the whole story or the whole picture on something, at least like just aware of what's going on for you to look more deeply into later, should you choose.
And they don't. I've
Yeah.
noticed they don't do very much straw manning for
Mm,
comedy's sake. Um,
that's helpful.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
guess
you
some
really don't
people,
have. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you really don't have to straw man. Just it's yeah.
right? Sometimes it just is a thing.
Yeah, sometimes they straw man themselves. It's so. So anyway, so
I'm
tonight,
I'm pretty sure they're cosplaying and don't know it.
who is?
The conservos
Oh, okay.
um and MAGA.
Yeah, couldn't tell if you're talking about them or the Daily Show folks, but yeah,
Oh no,
the
yeah, no. I sorry, I
Mega
went to
Knights.
an adjacent topic and didn't tell anyone.
I know it was still the same topic. This an adjacent object of the sentence is that thing.
Okay.
Any English teachers in the crowd? Let me know, Mr. Zod, if you happen to be watching. Anyway, so tonight, the topic for tonight related to autism is specifically, I guess, the experience of Christianity as an autistic person and the experience of autistic people from Christianity as well. So, like, oh, we got people watching already. Hey, welcome back,
Neat.
Daniel.
Woot woot.
So, breaking news: I got banned earlier from a pundits radio show stream because I brought up how many of them are phony as shit Christians that don't act Christ-like. I mean, without knowing who you were talking about, I'd put money on yeah, probably. Hey, now
Excellent.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Mr. Zod I was referring to, formerly Prophet of Zod on YouTube. Still has a good channel. He just changed it to Mr. Zod. He was kind of it was he's yeah. Words will come eventually. Stay tuned. an atheist YouTuber, but like one of my favorites. But then he recently just kind of shifted directions on his channel, most because like he'd been doing it a while. He's like, I feel like I've said pretty much all I have to say about like atheism and Christianity and apologetics and all that. So his channel's more just talking about like regular stuff. Like recently, he did a couple videos about time travel and whether it's actually feasible, but then also looking at time travel movies and breaking down how they treat it. Really cool. So yeah, look up Mr. Zod on
That
YouTube.
would be cool. Yeah, I've seen him do. He's been doing like some pop culture stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he talked about why The Hobbit was a really good book recently. But also, he still does some more like the atheisty type content in the live stream he does with Objectively Dan on Thursday nights.
It's very good.
Called
It's a good time.
Zadanza. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, in the chat features someone we'll be talking about later this evening, one Dr. Kipp Davis, who in my head canon is short for Kipward. But I have yet to confirm that with him, but probably never will. It will remain
Probably just his. It's
But-
probably his full name. He seems like he might have been some hippie parents.
No, I saw his full name because I guess Kit, like for some reason he chooses like I don't know if it's like he has issues with his using his real name online or whatever. But I just know one time when he was being interviewed by Dr. Jennifer Bird, he was talking about like one of his like his dissertation or whatever, and he showed it and it had like his real name across the bottom, and he acted like, "Oh crap, didn't mean to show my real name." So yeah, so I think I remember what it was, but I won't say it just in case
Well,
he doesn't
I'm
want
sure
it out there.
you could just Google search his face and
Oh
find his
yeah,
real
I'm sure.
name.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure. But I guess for whatever reason, he just chooses not to go by that name. So, oh well. Anyway,
It might be to keep his kind of more for fun online stuff from his professional work.
that could be.
Just
I don't know.
two spheres.
So good segue, Matt. What you drinking there? I asked as soon as you start drinking it. Yeah.
Dale's Pale Ale again.
Is it really that? Is it really that dark? Wow.
Yeah. It's
I guess it looked the way
like
you were holding it looked a little darker, but yeah.
Nevada's Pale Ale.
Oh, okay.
But a little less specific.
I see. Nice. Might have to try that one sometime.
What kind of hops are used in like American lagers?
American lagers?
Or
I actually don't know.
The older versions. It tastes American. Like the bitterness has an American taste to it. It's like a really good version of a cheap beer. But it's not cheap beer.
No. Interesting. All right. Well, so speaking of Sierra Nevada, I'm actually having a Sierra Nevada. Their Hop Tropical IPA. I saw it at the store. It looked intriguing, so I got some.
I'm not sure if I've had that.
It's tasty. Little lighter bodied, and I think the ABV on it's only like 6.5%. So nice. This is like what I would consider a session beer for people like familiar with the term. But yeah,
you could probably get like at least 3 of those in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll see what I get to tonight. So, but speaking of tonight and Dr. Kipp, one of the things that got me interested in the topic was he had an episode on his channel recently. I think we mentioned it last week, before maybe, where he interviewed this guy named John from the podcast Christianity on the Spectrum. And it was specifically when, because I guess John, he's done something like 9 years worth of research on, I think, specifically issues like why autistic people tend to leave Christianity, like for what reasons, what issues do they have with it, and because he felt like that just wasn't an area that had, at least to him, like satisfactory research and papers or whatever, peer reviewed, all that words on the topic. So yeah, but when he started talking about reasons why, like pretty much every one of them, and he says he gets this reaction a lot, but almost sounded like he was telling my story, like with my issues with it and why I ended up leaving. And I was like, oh, so one, it was kind of like validating to hear, but also just really cool to hear someone actually like is like doing research on this, which is pretty cool.
Just watching him talk, was it easier to notice his autistic stuff, and then you're like, oh, I'm really autistic? Because I would recognize things as being autistic. I was like, oh, I do that, but I didn't think I did that. I thought I was doing a good job not doing that.
No, I think for me it was maybe this is sort of a tell, but like I didn't find anything odd about him at all. So maybe that says something.
No, it wasn't odd. It was just
no, but I mean, like I don't mean odd, but like nothing really stood out. I didn't like. I guess just watching him for me, I was like, he seems like a totally normal person. And I was like, wait.
There was something about the way he smiled. It seemed like some of that was a reflex. Something like a coping thing, a social coping thing. That like even if he's being awkward, if he's smiling, people are less bothered. I noticed that there were like patterns to his speech that were similar to mine, and I'm just realizing more things about how it is a like complete different brain wiring.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, and I have linked in the description of the show tonight a link to at least the YouTube page, and there's other places to find it as well. But for this guy's podcast called Christianity on the Spectrum, because this guy is still a Christian. I guess his story is he grew up Christian, but then deconverted and became atheist, but then reconverted, like as an autistic person. So, his story is interesting.
I didn't hear that part where he was back into it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I didn't. Was that near the beginning? Did I just miss it?
I don't remember. Like I watched that video again like a few days ago, but it was also like while I was working / playing Elden Ring, so I don't remember all the details, and especially like in what order. But yeah, so I linked to the YouTube page for his podcast. You can also find it on Spotify, probably other places as well. But then also just a link to the video that we're specifically referencing where he was interviewed by Dr. Kipp. So check those out. In the Dr. Kipp episode, like basically like the first hour is him giving his like kind of background like on the research, like why he did it, how he did it, his findings and stuff. But then starting at about like the hour 1 minute mark or so, he starts getting into more talking about like, here's the reasons we found that autistic people are leaving Christianity, or like here's the problems and issues they have with it, or why he says he's like, look, like you people who are like autistic and like left Christianity and are like still atheists, even though I've like reconverted, he's like, I totally get it. Like I'm not gonna like he says like for him he's like I in so many words he basically said like, yeah, I can't defend this. It just seemed like a good idea for me where I was in my life, and I was like, totally cool, dude. So but yeah, but also wanted to got another comment here from Daniel regarding the topic at hand, which I swear we'll get to eventually. I walked away from church a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Went to various churches, many denominations, and it always felt off, wrong, cliquish, and unholy in a house of God. Yeah, interesting. Now, forgive me, Daniel, if you've already said, or if you don't want to say, that's fine too, but like it's seeming like you at least maybe identify as neurodivergent of some sort. Again, let me know if I'm wrong, or if you don't want to share that. Totally cool too. But yeah, that was just my inclination-ish type of thing. But thanks for sharing that. That's I can relate with some of that. For sure.
That is kind of. I did just hear that when I was watching the podcast. My thought got away from me. That autistic people do kind of come up with like an amalgamation of Christianity when they are Christians. tend not to get kind of sample several and are like, I
Yeah.
think it's probably more like this, and
Uh-huh.
then that's yours. Kind of a la
Hmm.
carte it
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes sense. Because like one of the things you mentioned, like in his studies, like how like autistic people, it's hard for them to like in some ways kind of hard commit or at least say that they're hard committing, because he'll say like one of the questions, I forget if he said this was on his one of his surveys or just like other surveys he saw, where they would ask the question like, if you consider yourself Christian, do you consider yourself Orthodox or whatever? And so on the question whether they consider themselves Orthodox, he's like, we get response. It's like for their brain, it's like if it's not 100%, then it's just no. It's like there's really no in between, because they would say things like, yeah, I think I feel like I'm mostly Orthodox, but I don't know. There was just one of the things they talked about in the Council of Chalcedon. I just thought they went a little too far on this one thing, but it's like it's like, so I can't call myself Orthodox. Like, it's like another thing I've seen people say, like people with autism say, like they've taken these, like whether it was their official assessment or just like other quizzes about it or whatever, ask questions like, do you find that you have trouble wearing socks? And they would say, it's like, no, I do not have trouble wearing socks, for you see, I have a system. It's like, my dude, that's exactly what they're getting at. So we are an amusing folk. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I can't do tube socks. The seat with the seams on the inside.
mm,
You know what? Seams used to be on the outside. Think about it.
really,
I mean, it just doesn't that make more sense? Like
yeah,
functional wise, like it.
I think that came up in the movie Finding Forrester with Sean Connery, like his character where he's
Oh
flipped
yeah,
inside
yeah.
out. Yeah,
It, socks are made wrong. Hurts the
yeah,
toes.
yeah. It's like the seams on the inside. Yeah,
The only reason you would turn it the other way is because you think seams are ugly. There's
yeah,
not really any kind of like comfort or function thing for it.
yeah. Yeah, with me, like my issue is not so much like I don't have a problem wearing socks. With me is like I overthink which socks I'm going to wear, like for which occasion or for what day. So, all right. Ooh, and let's see. Daniel replied again. I could say neurodivergent. That's good because that's a difficult word to say. Sorry. But I'll call myself differently brained. Yep, that works. Sounds cooler. True. And also would be a good potential punk band name. Ooh, welcome to the stage, Differently Brained. I can see it now. Yeah, for sure. I'd go see them. So if you want to start that band, and don't worry if you can't play any instruments with punk, I think that helps.
Well, so you
So
don't need to learn 3 chords.
yeah,
Your
yeah,
drummer should be decent though.
yes, I will say, like, speaking as a drummer myself, like, yeah, it's a bit more involved back there, but
Because I think if you don't have a good drummer in a punk band, you just sound like a high school band. Like,
yeah, it's like you will always sound like this is your first band.
yeah, or it's like one person's a veteran, but everybody else sounds like their first band. Because sometimes you'll have like a really good guitarist in a punk band.
And this is like his 50th band he's been in, and
And every now and then there'll be a song where he really gets to show off, but then like most other songs, it's just like chords, 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 chords. And you're like, why do you enjoy this?
fantastic question. Yes. All right. So I guess I didn't really have a plan for, and we didn't really talk about how we were going to be dividing the topic up, like first drink, second drink wise, because I got a couple ideas for a couple different ways to approach it, but I don't know if we wanted to separate them in the segments, but more just the experience of being Christian as an autistic person, and then going into like the reasons why we left, and how that seems to match a lot with what this guy's research was showing. Like,
Let's. It doesn't matter if we talk about our. Trying to figure out like if talking about our experiences in it is more of a deeper thing, like a harder topic, and do we want that first or second? Where do you want the potentially harder topic?
Yeah, or I guess for anyone watching, if you have any preferences on which order, like comment now before we make up our minds and then maybe disappoint you.
So I guess the two categories are why we left, how that played out, and how it played out when we were in and not leaving.
I guess I was thinking like you could go like the like heavy, like where you want to put the heavier topic, but I don't know. To me, I think like both could be pretty heavy, like especially like as far as like why I left. I think that I feel kind of heavy about that too. So
it's just all in
I guess. Yeah. So
I guess I was thinking.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was thinking chronologically.
The autistic minds think alike.
Yeah. See, I was about to say we're syncing up like ladies on their period, but that would be weird to say. So I'm glad I didn't say that. Man, could you imagine?
Man, that'd be awkward.
Kind of like now.
It would be even more difficult if I said vagina blood.
Man. I'm glad none of that's going on.
My goodness. Think of the children.
Man, if people are thinking of the children, they wouldn't be watching in the first place. That's for darn sure. I like how I said darn, just in case they were still watching. Like I had them in mind. So I guess one way to maybe go right into this. So I guess too, like kind of set the stage a bit for people who aren't as familiar with us. And if you're not, where you been, but also welcome. So we're both like, neither of us officially diagnosed autistic, but it's like all signs point to yes, including some, like I mentioned, like my therapist, like even though she's not officially qualified to diagnose, but basically it was like, yeah, you're ticking all the boxes. And when I said like how I'm basically just fine referring to myself as autistic, how I kind of, went public, and she sounded very supportive of that. So I took that as support. Yeah, but neither of us realized this while we were still Christian. But now I know for me,
back.
Yeah, looking back, like just realizing like, oh, here's why that didn't make sense. Oh, here's why that people thought that there was something wrong with me, as it like not just the like social, but also the like as a Christian, like, well, if you're not doing this or behaving this way or thinking about things this way, and there's something wrong with you. But then looking back, like, oh, that's just kind of how my brain works.
Like that's why I felt like a charity case.
Yeah. Right. Let's see. So here's a why from Daniel. So again, like anyone else in the audience, if you want to share any of your experience, like whether you're autistic, other form of neurodivergent or not, just love to hear your thoughts on the things. So why for Daniel here? Got tired of all the people faking speaking in tongues. Ooh, yeah. Being worried about keeping up with the Joneses and being flashy. See, I was thinking like in Christian terms, like being fleshly and of the flesh and all that. Ostracizing people, gossip, and many other things that weren't very Christian. Yeah. I mean, these are things that I'm sure like, it's like you don't have to be autistic to be upset by those, but there's something about like the autistic or otherwise neurodivergent brain that like, yeah, those things are like particularly grating. But, and got tired of the sham and money hustle, telling people that the only way through God was social clubs and money. Yep. Got to join the club, got to pay up. Otherwise, you're just a bad Christian. So, yeah.
And I was just thinking about something.
Ooh, I like that.
Can you put up the comments again? Because it was something in the comment. And
both of them, or Here's the first one before.
Yeah. Okay. Now I got it back.
Right.
It was people not being very Christian, and how
Yeah.
like stuff inside the church is. It's almost like churches and especially churches. I was gonna say religion, but specifically churches are a place for people to go to be convinced they don't suck as much as they do.
Mm.
Because they start to think like, I'm a Christian, I'm this, God says this about me, and then if you're focused on what you believe God says about you, you start paying a lot less attention to how you actually are.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, well, God tells me doing this is this way and like has this effect. So like you're full of shit. That like this is, you don't think this is good for you or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if they see anybody else doing the same thing that they're doing, as long as it's about they're doing it with an idea that they disagree with, they'll call them out for doing the exact same things they're doing. But God told them to do it, so it's okay.
Right.
But
Right.
they'll act like doing the thing is bad. Like God says it's bad because it's bad. Like we can all clearly see that's a bad thing to do. And but like no, only your people can clearly see that.
Right.
But it's literally
Yeah.
not what's happening. So
Yeah. Any examples? Or
I had a bunch going through my head. Let me see if I can pick one out. Just like in particular the MAGA Christians right now. How they're convinced they're the good guys, but like objectively doing bad guy things.
mm-hmm. Right.
Like our laws don't matter, Constitution doesn't matter, we can do whatever with the brown people we want, we can
Mm-hmm.
deport American citizens as long as they're first generation children of immigrants, because they're like not really citizens. It's like they're what you would call a second class citizen.
Right.
That's a good thing to do. Or I didn't see it. I was listening to the Majority Report while I was working today, and there was a video of some kind of rally somewhere. It's like a political rally, and there was a glorification of people being deported, and it was like a sizzle reel of
Mm-hmm.
deportation videos.
Yeah.
And it sounded like an enormous crowd of people just went ape shit with how much they loved it. They were cheering for it, and it's like, that's, how do you not see this Nazi rally? Like, do they think that like, well, the Nazis they only hated the Jews, and it's like, no, I hated anybody that wasn't German, and the less you looked like a German, the worse you were.
Yeah, they hated like they hated Jews, basically any non-whites, homosexuals,
people, the Roma people. I think that's what they were called. They were called gypsies. That was the slang.
Oh, yeah.
That was a slur.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a bunch of them in the concentration camps. But there weren't many black people to hate in Europe, period. So
yeah, but if they'd gotten far enough, yeah. But
it wasn't for lack of trying. Like,
right? Yeah.
If you're convinced,
yeah.
You know how we got here? This is a little tangent, but I just thought of this a couple days ago when I was high, and I wanted to make sure I said it. The reason why this stuff could happen in the first place with Trump, and how a lot of it is not, there's a good portion of that's actually legal, and it's because it's in a gray area. And the reason why we had these exploitable laws that, to like snake through and get to the top and do this, was because Americans were just huffing their own farts. We were so ate up with our own exceptionalism that we just were convinced like it couldn't happen here because we're not those kind of people. And no, the truth is, like, there's always been a portion of us that's been that kind of people. And I don't think, I I don't think the MAGA people actually got worse. I think that actually became super okay to really be themselves.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
and there's a cult vibe to it too, but I
Oh,
don't
for
think
sure.
it's like programming or. I, there's a lot of they like being this way.
Yeah, unfortunately. So,
They're like, I like being racist to the point that is useful. And like, as long as being racist is useful, I'm on board with it. Like, it's like that means you're super
yeah,
racist, man.
yeah, that's
Or they think it like a binary. I'm either racist or I'm not. And like, no, you can have black friends and be
yeah,
racist.
yeah, yeah. They say, well, I don't hate every black person I've ever met, so clearly I'm not.
The
Like,
ones that act more like me, I'm fine with.
yeah, or like the way I was thinking about. So, like, we live in Cincinnati, and as far as like cities go in the United States, it's a pretty conservative one. I mean, the electoral map around here is still pretty blue, at least around like presidential elections. But I mean, it's
It's barely liberal.
yeah, you can still feel like the racism, but like the way I would kind of describe the racism here, like you're more of you're a Cincinnati area native. I came here for college, so let me know what you think of this assessment. It's like the feeling I get, like the kind of overall with like at least the white folk of Cincinnati is almost like it's like, look, I don't have a problem that you're like a black person or just like otherwise not white person, but I just kind of prefer if you weren't. That's all. But you know, since you're not, that's fine. But could you maybe act more white? That'd be cool. You know, that's kind of
Yeah.
the vibe I get. So,
There's also when you were saying that, I was thinking about somebody saying it's okay that they look different, but do they have to be different?
yep, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
So, like reluctantly racist, I think is what you would call Cincinnati, or racist but not proud of it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, yeah,
It's a pretty Catholic city,
yeah.
and so like there's a whole lot of that like guilt that's just in the water here, and
Oh, right, for
so
sure.
Mega came along and was like, "It's pretty cool to be racist," and
Mm.
and they're like, "I'm saved."
Fuck. All right. So,
Cheeto Jesus, that's how he came to be.
Jesus. Um,
He's my id
so,
on the outside. He's an id outie.
oh shit. Uh,
Tell me
so,
that's not a human outie belly button with orange hair. Actually, his hair is really yellow right now.
yeah.
Something crazy is going on up top. It looks like fucking cotton candy up there now.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
and there's something going on where like some days there's this part that they seem to not be able to do anything with. Actually, it's on this side. And
Hmm.
it's like he had a cowlick and they couldn't do a damn thing with it, so they just swooped the hair around it.
It's like, let's just work with it.
I think what happened is that there's like around that point there's a change in the density of his hair. I don't know why I'm so interested in this, and it's like because of that, because there's no other hair really that much near it holding it down. It just kind of goes because he has old guy hair.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So being Christian and autistic, but not realizing it. Well, not realizing the autistic part. I think we realized we were Christian.
Yeah.
I didn't
About
feel
halfway
quite
through, I realized.
it's like, oh wait. But I guess maybe now what I wasn't aware of was the tism at the time was in a way making me feel like I at least a lot of times wasn't very good at being Christian, and that like led to a lot of guilt and stuff. Like for instance, things like trying to have a relationship with Jesus, because we all know like that's one of the big mantras, at least in like modern American like evangelical Christianity, is like it's not a religion, it's a relationship. Like,
Hey, do you want to
well,
steer this? Because I just realized Daniel mentioned his why, and so it would probably be a good time to talk about why we left first.
okay,
But is that cool?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what were you gonna what were you saying? Because I think it.
Well, this actually kind of ties into
That's
the
what I
why
thought.
I left. So, haha. um, syncing up again. So, because like people ask me like now that I have left, and this is something I think we talked about with Aaron when we had him on a couple weeks ago. Like, so the Christians in my life, or I guess like who haven't been in my life for a while, but like now that they saw I've like left the faith, they kind of want to come back in and like, hey, what's going on? Why'd you leave? Can I talk you back into it? And like,
That's exactly it.
mm-hmm. But no, actually, first it's they actually say, "Can I talk you back into it?" before they get to the why did you leave. It's like the why doesn't matter. I have the answers for whatever your reason is.
Yeah,
Um,
that's also very true.
yeah, but they'll ask me things like, "Well, it is." Oh, if you heard some like harmful teachings or bad theology, even like,
Yeah,
man, I
yours
totally
go
get
away.
it. But yeah, right. Yeah, but so what? And so when people think about like harmful theology or things that upset them about Christianity, make them leave, like they a lot of times like the big go tos and like studies on religious trauma kind of bear this out. Like big ones being one of the first ones that comes to people's mind is hell. Um, but the one that apparently tops the list when they've done research on this, was as far as like different doctrines or teachings that cause like trauma, like the rapture is one, or whether it's like you just don't like the teachings on like about like homosexuality or like other like social issues you don't agree with. But so they'll come to me with this attitude of, oh well, tell me what like harmful doctrine or bad theology you've heard and I'll like correct it for you and make it all good, like because they're expecting one of those big ones. They're like, oh yeah, that's terrible theology. Like, so what I come at them with, oh, you want to hear like what Christian teaching maybe did the most damage and caused the most harm to me and was one of the biggest reasons I left? It was this: Jesus loves me and wants a relationship with me. What do you got for that?
Yeah.
And
No, I think they would write you off as like a lost cause. I think they
I
would
mean,
they would make
I
that
wish
your fault.
I wish that was the case.
You know what I mean? No, but like
Yeah,
if they were
yeah,
thinking logically, that
yeah.
is
Right.
so outside what they're prepared to deal with that it would just make more
Hmm.
sense to like find a reason that it's your fault they need to run and hide.
Right. Yeah. And real quick, this kind of when it comes to like the communication like deficit. This was something I wanted to get into last week when we were more talking about this like autism in general, kind of defining it and explaining what the experience is like. One thing, speaking of this guy's podcast, Christianity on the Spectrum, one of the things he talked about was when people talk about autism, I guess there's this term, I think it's called like an empathy deficit. That's basically like when they're describing people with autism, like how more difficult it is for them to like understand and like pick up on social cues like from neurotypical people like in conversation or like in general social interactions. But he said like yes, that's true, but what people don't talk about is that this deficit actually goes both ways, because if you look at social
Yeah.
situations, like also the neurotypical people have trouble picking up what the autistic people like their signals. So everyone talks about, oh, it's the autistic people with the deficit. It's like, no, like the deficit, both people are just, like their brains are just literally working differently. So they're both having trouble like communicating, picking up on things. So yeah, that's something I, like I said, what meant to mention last week, but didn't see. I just want to work it in there somewhere. But yeah. But with the idea of like, so people might ask, well, Tommy, why is the idea that Jesus loves you and wants a relationship with you like so harmful? Like,
Why are you a
that's
bad person, Tommy?
for lots of reasons. But but yes, so as Daniel says here, religion is a crutch for a lot of people. In Christianity's case, they think if they say they're Christian, that Jesus is a get out of jail free card to be a douchebag, and they get a heaven multipass. Right?
You know
Yeah,
what?
I mean,
I think a lot of Christians do this is in their head, like this is kind of their operating software, but they don't think it is. And I realize
right.
that could sound like I'm saying I know you better than you, but but that might be true.
But like the whole like get out of jail free card, the way I've heard it put, because one of the accusations that people who leave Christianity, like autistic or not, will receive is like, we'll say, oh, you just left the faith because you wanted to sin and you didn't like being convicted, and like, so now you just want to live your sinful lifestyle. Like, first of all, like, I mean, I know like seems like it's true for you, Matt, but like what's true for me is like about the way I live and like the things I do, it's like really not much different than when I was a Christian as far as like these sinful habits or whatever. The only difference now is like I don't feel guilty about it, but so that's an improvement. But
I
yeah, I
think
didn't pick up any new. There wasn't like any new sinful things I was wanting to do and that
well,
picked
I've
up.
had
But
certain sinful things like were easier to let go of because
mm,
there wasn't like a I didn't have a great reason to be ashamed anymore. Um,
mm,
so I mean, there's stuff from growing up that's like more hardwired in there about
mm,
feeling ashamed and whatnot.
yeah,
But like the shame that religion puts on, and people will be like, no, it sets you free, and it's like, no, it sold
yeah,
you a cage,
hmm
and
yeah,
also said that it had it also has the key. The key doesn't work very well though. They forgot to tell you
yeah, right.
that.
But with the whole like, well, you just left because you want to sin, like, and you didn't want the accountability. But like, I've heard like different atheists say it's like, no, it's actually quite the opposite. Like, it's like in Christianity, like if you want to sin, like Christianity is the way to go, because it's like it doesn't matter what you do, all you got to do is like pray and ask forgiveness, and you're good.
That machine
So,
runs on sin.
mm-hmm.
Without sin, it wouldn't
Now,
be in business. Think about it.
correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as Daniel says here, it's not the idea of benevolent, loving, kind Jesus that's the bad part. Sounds like a dude I'd smoke a bowl with. He may be down. It's so-called followers that aren't like him that are the bad part. That is very common, but my where I was getting at with the whole like relationship with Jesus, like I understand like like even among atheists, people have different views on Jesus, whether they still thought he was a cool dude or not. Like I'm actually becoming, I guess, the more I learn about Jesus and the more, or not necessarily the more I learn about him, even, but the more I read what we have written about him, like in the Bible, and like a little more critically, I'm really like I'm more and more becoming like really not a fan of the dude. He seems like pretty problematic to me in a lot of ways, but
I'm a fan
when
of
it,
what he became uh, in progressive Christianity. That Jesus that became that one. I'm more of a fan
yeah,
of that one. But like the actual one, probably was awesome for his time. But now he's he's a little out of date.
yeah. But also, for his time, he was also probably just like another apocalyptic cult leader as well. So take that for what you want.
I think
But
there was more something
yeah,
about the story people told about Jesus that was the magic part. It was I think it was some kind of useful
mm,
technology people were creating around a story of a guy.
hmm
Because it yeah, I think it's a tool people created, didn't know they were creating it.
yeah, tool. Yeah, but yeah. So as Daniel says here, yeah, that's an absurd argument I hear often is that you can't have a sense of morals without religion and want to be a complete hedonist with no accountability, right? I think we've done at least one episode on the whole idea of like morality without God. I mean, that's something that was one of the things I'd like to talk about more sometime. But yeah, but when it comes to like the whole, like, why do I find that teaching of Jesus loves you and wants a relationship with you.
Wait, let me say real
Well,
fast. Like to somebody
yeah.
who would say something like the counter argument that, or the response that Daniel just was commenting on.
Hmm.
I want somebody to do that to me or say that something like that to me, and I want to say, just ask them, why do you hate yourself? Because if
Mm.
that's what you
Yep.
think, you see yourself and other people primarily.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't hate blah blah blah. I don't
Pretty
know what they
much.
would say.
Yeah. Or as like Penn Jillette says, like people ask me, like, as an atheist, like, what's to keep you from like murdering and whatever, like all you want? And he's like, nothing. I do all that stuff all I want, and that amount is zero because I just
And
don't
then it
want.
would be like, how much do you want to murder?
Yeah.
Sounds like you want to murder, and Jesus is keeping you from doing that. In that case, maybe keep Jesus on your way to getting mental help.
Yes, please. Yeah, because some Christians, like I've heard, like will even brag about, like, yeah, if it wasn't for Jesus, I'd probably be in jail right now. It's like,
Maybe we should put you there now.
yeah, I'd be fine with that, in some cases.
Because if
But
you have
yeah,
like a
so
spout of sinning, would you like kill half your neighborhood? Like what the what?
yeah, like, like
Doubt
if
you're
you
gonna be perfect
suddenly,
forever, man. We should probably lock you up.
yeah, for reals. Um, so yeah, so people may be asking, so Tommy, why is the idea that Jesus loves you and wants a relationship with you such a harmful idea? The great question, whoever you are. It's because I had such a hard time, like Matt mentioned earlier, like trying to form a relationship with this being that I couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't interact with, couldn't talk with. Or I was told, oh, you can talk to Jesus. That's what prayer is. And then you'll hear from him. Like in my church, like
Because
growing
I
up, was
say you
mostly,
will, and I say these things work, and
mm-hmm,
because trust
yeah,
me, bro.
but right. But in the church I grew up with, and it was more like the hearing from God was mainly like reading your Bible, but they still acknowledge sometimes, like in a time of prayer or just on your own, like God still may like lay something on your heart and you may hear from Him that way. But yeah, and this is one of those things that, I mean, I realized that like at the time, like I said, this was one of the big reasons I ended up deconverting. Like even like before I had any idea I was like autistic or any kind of neurodivergent, but like just realizing like that whole thing just didn't make sense because there were just so many layers to it. Like one, like now that I realize is, like the autism part of it is like I like have a hard enough time forming relationships with and like understanding and feeling close with like real people like in real life that I can actually see and interact with.
And
But like
interpreting
now
their
you,
emotions and their what they're trying to communicate, and
mm-hmm, and knowing what they expect of me or want from me or things they want to tell me, whatever. But then now you're telling me to do that with this being that I can't see at all. And like I said, like can't see, can't interact with. But then also adding the stakes of, oh, but not only do you need to have this relationship, but this needs to be like your best, closest relationship. Like you need to be closer to Jesus than even with your own family and your friends or anyone else in your life.
yeah, and you have
And
no idea how hard autistic people try to do that.
oh yeah,
Like it,
and
yeah,
yeah, but then you add
it's a
the,
little traumatic.
oh yeah, especially because when you add the layer, oh, and if you don't, you'll probably go to hell forever if you don't get it right.
We're not saying
So
you will. That's not our place to say. And who really knows? And
yeah,
like, but we by the
no, like
fruit.
it.
And
No, and in my church growing up, they were like, "Oh yeah, you're definitely going to hell for that." Like they were very like proud and upfront about it. But apparently, in our audience right now is the best. Well, so great to have you, and hi.
it's good to meet you. I've always
Like,
wondered what the best was.
it looks like you have questions.
I can't. What is their profile picture?
I can't quite tell.
I want to say
Um,
it's Fozzie Bear, but it's probably not at all.
Maybe a mouse with a party hat. I don't know. It's like on my screen, it's like that big.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah. All right. Real quick, another comment from Daniel here. if there was a Jesus and he were the Son of God, God in the flesh, why would you want to worship someone who created a world just to sit and watch us destroy and steal its entire existence without intervening? Fantastic question.
I think we're assuming God cares about anything in particular.
Well, I mean, Christianity definitely does assume that. So most religions.
Yeah. But if they care in any way, you're right, they wouldn't do that. So,
Mm. Well, see, now about all the people who existed in the world before Christianity and Jesus, they go into hell by default for something they had no control over and someone they couldn't have known. Now, what I was taught growing up is, a lot of those people still be in heaven, but before Jesus, it was more about just generally obeying God, keeping the law, and so it seemed like it was more like works based back then. But yeah,
that's how you make sense of the Old Testament.
yeah.
But maybe if you ever played like a kind of a battle royale game where you get once you're dead, except you get one mulligan.
Mm.
I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Is this in another game where you go into like a little purgatory room and you versus another player, and whoever survives that gets to go back in the game?
Ooh. I don't think I played those, but yeah, I get the
It might only
concept.
be the Ukrainian fighting game. That's probably a Nazi fighting game.
Hmm.
I Everybody in it, all the characters are white, and the only person of color is like a she devil.
Hmm. Interesting. But yeah.
Yeah,
Well.
sounds like the Ukrainians are probably culturally racist.
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
it's just
Oh well.
too many decades and centuries without black people being around. It just
Yeah. That'll do it, I guess. But
I'm
yeah.
not saying
So.
Putin's right though. He's not.
Oh yeah. No. But he's probably racist too, for all I know. Who knows?
Oh,
But
come on now. Little man syndrome. He's racist.
all right. So was all that stuff I was saying about like the trouble, like having a relationship with Jesus? Like, what was your experience with that? Do you relate to a lot of that, or how do you do
um.
that?
Yeah. But I didn't really. I knew I understood or experienced God differently. Um, that I guess looking back, I felt like I had a relationship with the concept, but
Mm.
not with a person. Um,
Yeah.
and kind of a general spiritual feeling, um, like whatever were relying on in the prayer tent, the Holy Spirit or whatever that was. I think it was probably tapping into senses we didn't know we had anymore. Uh, kind of animal based instinct stuff. Um, but whatever that was, like that kind of connection was there and like it's kind of still there, but I don't think it's God. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
so I think what was harder for me was not being able to relate to what other people were saying about God and their relationship
Yeah.
with Him. So I
Hmm.
did feel kind of on the outside, uh,
Yeah.
like I was supposed to have those kind of stories. I had my own spiritual experiences, and when I was having them, like time, like my legs went out and I felt glued to the ground,
Mm.
like literally couldn't get up. It was like I tried to and I couldn't. It was like gravity was incredibly heavy.
Mm.
Uh, Nobody knew what that was. Like even the people who had been like doing crazy prayer shit forever, they're
Uh-huh.
like, "No, it is. Looks good. Looks good. We think it's good, but
Keep it
it's
up.
literally very different." Um, so
Hmm. Yeah.
fortunately, I already knew
Mm.
I had ADHD, and I knew I thought different. Um,
Mm.
so I knew I was gonna have like a little difference there. So that kind of helped.
Hmm.
there was still a lot of pressure to conform, and
Mm-hmm.
um,
Like, was this what it really was, Matt?
no, it wasn't. Um, but
I'll have what he's having.
no, it was like something had an impact on my brain that way in that moment. But yeah, it was literally like my body didn't work, like at all. It was like temporary paralysis. Um, I had some good like emotional healing in that moment. Something
Mm,
was going on.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was weird.
Yep. That's a way to describe it. But yeah, something else I wanted to mention about that whole idea of it's a relationship, not a religion. Like, even like I was about to say aside from the whole autism thing, but I guess as we get into like why we left, like this totally tracks that this was like a problem for me because of the autism. Because one of the things in the study said like one of the biggest problems with like autistic people or neurodivergent people with Christianity is in general like autistic people don't deal very well with cognitive dissonance. So like if we see like a problem or like a fault in the logic or in the thinking, it's like we can't not see it, and we're just gonna like be like laser focused on it until we either figure it out or say this is bullshit or whatever. So, but
I'll add to that though that if you're if you got a lot of practice burying cognitive dissonance,
yeah,
uh,
especially if you
because
feel
I
like you
grew
have
up
to.
in an alcoholic
Mm-hmm.
household, and so there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like learned dissonance and uh, just acting like things don't bother you, all kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
if you bury it and part of your brain is still fixated on it, and it can cause a lot of problems because it's going
right.
on in the background and taking up a lot of your bandwidth, but you're not really aware of it. You just know things feel really off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, and speaking of like feelings of guilt, I mean, like you said, that yeah, like yeah, there were a lot of things where I would be like sensing this cognitive dissonance about certain ideas, but feeling like that was wrong of me to do so. So it's like part of my brain was wanting to resolve the dissonance, but the other part of my brain was trying to say like, nope, this isn't cognitive dissonance. Everything's fine. Yeah, but specifically with this idea of like it's a relationship, not a religion. Like the more I was thinking about that, what started kind of making that seem not so right for me was thinking about okay, let's think about this relationship. Like because like we said, it's not with a real like physical person you can see. I mean, some people will claim to have like very vivid like visual, maybe even like physical tangible like interactions with Jesus. Like I've never had anything like that, so if that's what he's about, then like
Those always
that's
seemed really sus
yeah.
to me.
Yeah, but
Or like they weren't telling us all of the sex dream.
you didn't just finger those holes like Thomas, did you? Anyway,
Because everybody's like, this is weirdly intimate. And like, you look around and other people are all excited about it. You're like, okay, I guess this is good. Seems gross.
right? So, but I started thinking about it like other than like examples like that, but in general, like what does this relationship look like? Like you ask most like Christians will say, okay, how do you have a relationship with Jesus? Like they'll describe things like oh, prayer, or reading your Bible, or going to church, or fasting, or singing praise and worship songs, or having communion. It's like okay, all of those things are religious activities. So you're not really selling me on the whole this isn't a religion part, but if anything, it almost sounds like you have a relationship with a religion, which kind of sounds worse, if I'm honest. So
You got absorbed
yeah.
into the amoeba.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, as Daniel says here, a relationship with God's kind of like Stockholm syndrome. Ooh, interesting. Given the illusion of free will, I'd be interested in like Daniel, do you think we have free will? Are you determinist, compatibilist? I don't understand what compatibilism means, but I might be one. Who knows? Given the illusion of free will, but if you don't worship him, you're damned for eternity. So you wind up sympathizing with your captor. Yep. That's one thing.
Yeah. If
Like
you
another thing.
like, if you don't worship him, no free will for you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
I don't know if that's free.
Yeah, because and I've said
Kind of
this is
like you're not a
another.
slave if you like your master.
It's all about your mindset, man.
No, if you do what you love, you'll never work for a day. If you love what you do, you'll never unionize. I don't know.
That's what they want you to think. But yeah, that's because another thing that a lot of former Christians get asked, well, or atheists, I guess in particular, is well, if you find out that God was real, would you accept him, or whether it's
It depends.
Christianity
Is he an
or
asshole?
yeah. But I mean, if at least American evangelical, other forms or whatever, Christianity is true, and where I have to accept him into my heart or believe certain things about him, otherwise I'd go to hell. It's yeah, if the other option is burning forever, then yeah, I'll try to appease him or do what I got to do. But I also kind of get the feeling he'd be able to tell that it wasn't entirely genuine. So I don't know if that would even work.
Well, I don't know. If God's like Trump, he just polishes his knob and he has no idea what's happening.
Can't even tell when things are photoshopped, but
oh my god, that was hilarious. Are you talking about the interview?
Yeah, with the MS-13 tattoos.
Yeah, the reporter almost wanted to rock back and forth.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it can't be this bad. He's like, oh, Grandpa, please shut up.
Yeah.
He started. He was irritated with him at first, it seemed, and then he was just starting to pity him and just trying to get him to stop talking because.
Yeah, he's I want to move on to another subject, but Trump just wouldn't.
So you're making me look like I'm beating up on a child. Let's move on.
Yeah. Oh,
he goes. He's like, the reporter goes, it's Photoshop, and he goes, well, then don't Photoshop it. It's he has no idea what that means. He's like,
yeah, he's it clearly says
right here, M.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was photoshopped is because the tattoos below that.
Yeah, they were trying to say that because it was symbols across his knuckles.
Yeah,
there was
marijuana,
a skull, marijuana leaf, a cross,
smiley face, a cross, and then
a skull, I think.
Yeah, which I guess they were saying 3 because it had 3 fucking holes in its face. I don't know.
Yeah, so they were trying to say. So it showed a picture of his knuckles that had the tattoos, but then above it's okay, this one means M, this one means S, this one means 1, this one means 3, and that was the MS-13 was photos, and it was very clearly photoshopped on.
Yeah,
but Trump was it says it's it's not, because the reporter was well, those tattoos, you can interpret those as MS-13. It's up to how you interpret it. And it's no, it's not interpretation. It clearly said MS-13, and it's that was the Photoshop.
Also, based on where those numbers were on top of the hand in the picture, for one thing, if they were right on his knuckles, which I don't think they were, but they're right on his knuckles, there would be perspective distortion from being on a knuckle. Yeah. Also, really weird to tattoo your knuckles, and it would only look like anything when your hand is like this. If you open your hand, it just looks like raisins.
Yeah. Right? Or those squiggly things you get in your eye sometimes.
Oh yeah. No, it was all the.
Yeah.
In that moment, I really hope everybody who saw that, who didn't already think this, woke up to the reality that he has dementia. He's doing very little as president, and what's his nuts, Miller? I want to say Stephen Miller. I don't think that's his name. I might even have his last name wrong, but he's the little racist troll that he's autistic and angry as fuck about it. Like, you see him in an interview with anybody, he's like, imagine Mark Zuckerberg just like angry all the time and super defensive and like women are out to get him. Like that's his whole deal when he's on interviews.
I have
He's
no
the
idea
one,
who you're talking about, but
okay.
okay.
But he's Worm Tongue. He's, remember that character?
Mm-hmm.
He's Trump's
Yeah,
Worm
from Lord
Tongue.
of the Rings.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's the one he's manipulating the senile king, and he's the one in charge of a lot of the immigration stuff. And so when Trump is like, well, the lawyers told me this, it's like, no, his lackey has been telling him this. And when he told him in front of reporters that like the Supreme Court was 9-0 in their favor, Trump appears to have thought that was the reality.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so Daniel's confirming, yes, Stephen Miller, the human thumb that looks like a naked mole rat and couldn't get laid in a whorehouse with a wad of hundreds hanging from his zipper. That's very descriptive. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it looks like a badly drawn gargoyle.
Yeah. But like, I also want to make sure we got to this comment from Daniel here. Like, God totally loves you and wouldn't do anything sadistic. Also, God, hey Abraham, go sacrifice your son Isaac and prove your loyalty, or else you don't really love me, right?
Well, he wasn't really going to do it, apparently.
Well, no,
he was just being a psychopath about it.
Well, it also depends, like if you're reading the Genesis account or later in Hebrews when it's calling back to it, because like so. Speaking of like YouTube channels, we recommend the channel Mind Shift had a great like couple videos recently, or this
Very
wasn't
good
like the
stuff.
main topic, but this was a bit one of his big examples for the topic he was talking about. I can't remember the topic even, but yeah, he was talking about this story in particular and how like the way Christians tried to defend it is just so like wild and messed up. But yeah, so check out Mindshift. He's got some.
We know another
lots of good
person
videos.
with the first name Stephen who may have said yes, he would.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like that. I don't
like
know.
if God asked you to off your son, yeah,
I don't. I
yeah.
don't like that. I don't know that he would say what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's anyway. So yeah, so so yeah, part of my this is. I mean, I guess like the topics of like what was our experience with Christianity and why we left. I guess there's really like a lot of overlap. So I don't know if it even really necessarily even makes sense to talk about them separately. I think they kind of
wait. If Jesus died, then I thought we were done killing people's kids. Like, didn't he? Wasn't he like a once for all kind of deal?
Well, yeah. As far as like
sacrifices.
as far as an atonement sacrifice, but like Isaac wasn't an atonement sacrifice. It was literally like God like testing his faith. Which, first of all, there's a question like if God, who knows everything, why does he need to test someone? That's a whole other issue.
Because he doesn't know everything in that time period.
Yeah, that version of God, like, yeah, the writers hadn't got their shit together yet, so God was still kind of clueless about a lot of shit. But
like they knew so little that it was bad writing to think that that like there could be any being that knows everything.
Yeah, but they worked it out in subsequent seasons. Yeah, it's God has quite the character arc in the Bible, that's for sure.
And then there was like a big whole like the sequel is full of retconning.
Faux show. So, but as far as like the whole, you got to have a relationship with Jesus. It's like, because really, like, and I think that's also connected to the whole like problem of divine hiddenness, which like for me, like if I had to point to a single issue as being like the main reason I left, like that was, I'd probably have to say that was the biggest reason for me. Because part of it is like I said, I've been wanting to have this relationship with Jesus, like I said, like my whole life, but it's just not really making sense, like how I do that. But like other people seem to be able to make it happen. But I mean, I finally did get to a point where I felt like I was actually like making it happen. But it was after having partially just having a very different view of Jesus after a while, like going to like different churches, hearing different things, and what you got there?
I was just wanted to smell them. Sorry, I was listening.
Sorry.
My cousin
But
makes
yeah.
edibles. This is a chocolate cone
Ooh, nice.
with live resin.
Uh, nice. But
You don't know what it is.
yeah. But I got to a point where, like I said, once I started getting more involved in like the prayer ministry that like me and Matt talk about a lot, and at that church we were going to, it felt like I was starting to actually have like experiences and like, you know, really experiencing God and having a relationship with Jesus. Felt like I was actually interacting with him and seeing stuff happen. And so obviously it was at that point where I finally was feeling like I was finally getting there, is when I started like heavily deconstructing, because of course, again, it's all Matt's fault probably. But yeah, but essentially what one of my biggest issues was, because I got to the point where I was no longer like afraid of hell. So like there wasn't that layer of like feeling guilty for not feeling like I had this relationship with Jesus, because like I'd become a universalist. But the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, so apparently the way I felt better about God and Jesus and Christianity and my faith was I adjusted my faith and I changed like how I viewed God and what I believed about him. But I was like, why can I do that? And
What do you
like,
mean?
why, like, meaning like, why is it up to me to decide to change my views on things or have to discover different ways of looking at God? Like, if this is how he is, why didn't he just tell me from the beginning? And why does he let all these people have such a wrong view of him if this is what he's really like? You know?
What if God isn't a person though?
Well, but I'm talking about like in Christianity, like
Oh, okay,
where
gotcha.
God very much is a person. Like he is a being. Like he wants a relationship with you. So that was where like the dissonance was coming in. It's like,
Yeah,
because that was also became like one of my issues just generally like with like the deconstruction and like progressive Christian community. Is like, it's like I realized, okay, they literally are doing the thing that the more like fundamentalist evangelical Christians would say, but like more like as a pejorative or like as a bad thing. They're like, oh, you're just making God in your own image. And it's like, yeah, we kind of are. It's like,
yeah.
this doesn't
But
seem to have
we've
any.
always been doing that.
Yeah. But I'm like, even it, so it's because that's one of the things I talk about a lot, like on my way out, you know, after like surviving cancer and like having my whole life just like completely rocked and just looking for something solid to grasp onto. Like the thing I just kept getting from like this, you know, progressive Christian deconstruction, whatever you want to call it, community was like, oh, it's all about the mystery. And like, I'd ask people, okay, you think God and Jesus are like this? Well, why? And I would like keep, no, because of this. Okay, but why do you think that's correct? And like all these other depictions of God aren't. It's like, it eventually all boiled down to, well, this is just what I believe. Or they might say what I choose to believe, like whether or not that's a real thing. But yeah, so basically I just got to the point. It's like, I just kind of like stood back and like realized like, we're all just kind of making shit up. Or if we're not actually making the shit up, we're just choosing what we want to believe from shit that other people made up.
Yeah, I
But
think
like,
we've been designing something, but we didn't know we were designing it. It was kind of like
right.
um,
Mm-hmm.
what do you call it? Order arising from disorder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah. Order from the chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Um,
just something that happens. Systems get created.
yeah. Now that approach like makes sense. Like if you're just talking like generally just about like philosophy or like ways of thinking about things that like aren't necessarily like directed with some sort of like ultimate true answer where it really is like you just got to figure some stuff out for yourself. And like, yeah, a lot of life is like that. But again, going back to what Christianity was proposing is like, no, there is a reality behind this. Like, there is a correct way to view God because God is real and he is a certain way. So you can be correct about how you view him and you can be incorrect about how you view him. And there may or may not be dire consequences to that. Because again, another thing, like Christians can't decide if like they believe in hell or if they're universalist and they're like, oh, you know, we just have all these different views and it's just a mysterious thing and it's okay that it's mysterious. Like, not when it's like whether or not you're going to hell forever. Like, that should not fucking be mysterious. Like, at least that part of it should be pretty plain. So,
yeah. People started getting high on their own supply.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah. So for me, that's one of the things this guy John from the Christianity on the Spectrum podcast talks about. He's like, when he talks about like why he kept seeing like a lot of the same things come up when he would talk with autistic people who left Christianity. It's just a lot of it just boils down to the cognitive dissonance, where it's like there's there's so many different versions of Christianity, and like y'all can't agree on it, and like how am I supposed to know which one's right? Because again, this goes back to like the divine hiddenness thing. We don't have God like showing up at least periodically to kind of course correct, you know, when we've gone like way off or this belief is wrong. We need to view more this way because I'm okay with some things being mysterious, you know, like because yeah, that's the way people are, the way our brains work. It's like, yeah, a lot of times we learn better when we aren't just given all the answers up front. It's when we're just kind of given guidance or just given like kind of a starting point and say, okay, now figure this out for yourself. I mean, the same thing like as parents, you know, we don't just tell our kids everything, like especially now that they're getting older and able to like learn more things for themselves. Like, yeah, that's great. But what is not mysterious to my kids is that I exist. And I show them in very tangible ways that I love them and care for them. And if there are certain like, and if I knew that they were like on their way to about to like walk into like a torture chamber that they would never escape from, like I would make it very clear, hey, don't do that. Even if I had to like literally like grab them and tackle them to get stop them from doing that. But or in Christianity, it's like, oh, hell may or may not exist. It's mysterious, and you may or may not be going there, but that's cool, right? Like, fucking no, it's not.
But don't worry, be happy, just have faith.
Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, we don't have like official first drink, second drink, but I'm pretty much out of my first one.
Yep.
Now I am. So one thing I want to talk about is, well, I guess first maybe introduce what I'm drinking for my second drink. What you got there for your second one, Match?
Same as the first.
Good old Dales. Yeah. So for mine, like, so I guess like speaking of being autistic and hyper focusing on things, yet more Mad Tree rounding third, because I mean they keep having it in the store, so I'm gonna keep buying it. So what are you gonna do?
It should be gone by now, shouldn't it?
No, like at least like the Kroger near me, like they were still like pretty well stocked on it. But I mean it's like Price Hill, Delhi area, so not the biggest craft beer market, I guess you could say.
No. Trump country, though.
Yeah.
Do you really see that many Trump signs and stuff out? Like banners and shit?
Yeah, flags. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Super embarrassing when you find out he's a second coming of Hitler. Or not. Some of them will be like, whatever, Trump forever. Trump or die.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, no. They tell us we have become a slogan of the violent types.
Oh, damn it. And they tell us we have Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, no, I think that's something different.
Even if the left takes back over, which I think eventually things will swing heavy and kind of stay there. Like there's going to be a violent contingent
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
won't want to go anywhere.
Right. Anyway, yeah. So unfortunately, I don't remember what this yes was in reference to. We'll see if I pick it up by reading the rest. Because most paintings you see of Jesus, he's white when he would have been olive skinned. Yep. Ten Commandments say no iconography, but iconography everywhere in Christian denominations.
No, not every. I went to one Church of Christ, one of the Churches of Christ categories. There were no images allowed of Jesus, no crosses in the church, because they were like super mad at the Catholics.
Yeah. But also, real quick, this is also something I learned partially from Dr. Kipp, who we've talked about. When people talk about like how people are made in the image of God, and we're like, oh, it doesn't mean we look like him or anything. It just means like we have his character and
Except that literally
morality and
says
everything.
in the
Yeah,
Bible
but
the opposite.
yeah, the word that's used, like I don't know what it is, but Dr. Kipp and like other Hebrew and biblical scholars have said like the word that's used there, like literally every other time we ever see it used, it's referring to like a statue or a figure or a model
Yeah.
or like a literal physical representation of a thing. So when the Old Testament
representations
Hebrew Bible,
of gods in particular,
right?
like
So
idols
when it
that
says
humans made, except in this case, God made an idol.
right, because I mean, in the Genesis or the second creation story in Genesis, because yeah, there's two. God is forming Adam from the dust of the ground, like you would like form like a figure or whatever.
He was a golem.
So when it says, yeah. So when now I have heard like that's something like people like Aaron Ra, like he refers to it as a golem spell, but I've heard from other like actual Jewish people, I think specifically like Vishanti, who does like a lot of admin for Dr. Kipp and like other stuff. She says that's not exactly a golem spell, but so I take
only
her
know
word
from
for it on that.
an episode of X
But
Files where there was a clay person.
yeah, but anyway, it's like God forming a figure. So that word, like in every other case it's used, it literally means no. It's making a thing that looks like the thing. So when the Old Testament Hebrew Bible says we are made in the image of God, it means we literally physically look like God.
But only men, women are not
Ooh.
the image of God. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're a shadow of the image of God.
Yeah, or just a side.
In other words, second
A
class.
side, literally a spare rib, which gives spare ribs a bad name because spare ribs are fucking awesome. All right, working through a couple more comments here. So Islam has two main branches. Two. Christianity's got 45,000 denominations.
Yeah, but apparently if you have just two, they fight a lot.
Yeah, but not with the 45,000. Like, we don't even know who to fight with anymore. But yeah, something's wrong there. The one true religion is pretty damn fractured and factionalized, especially given that Jesus himself in the Garden of Gethsemane prayed that we would all be unified. Now, what?
that we may be one as he and the Father are one.
Right. So I guess this is on topic, because speaking of the things that we have cognitive dissonance about and really kind of hone in on and try to figure out, well, this doesn't make sense, but we're like mostly like neurotypical Christians. We're like, I know it doesn't make sense, but don't worry about it. It's like, I literally can't not worry about it. So,
no, isn't the mystery amazing? Nope.
Like, and some things maybe, but okay. So first of all, it's like just a question of why was Jesus praying if he was God? I mean, that's a whole other thing. But okay, think about this.
Seems like a mental problem.
Right? But even if you take for granted that Jesus was God and he was praying to himself, when God prayed to himself, the thing that he asked for didn't happen. Like, we are not unified the way God prayed to himself that we would be. So, because if you think about all the excuses that Christians will say about like why your prayer isn't answered, like how can any of those apply to Jesus, who is God? Because it's usually like, oh, you weren't praying according to the will of God. It's like, well, if he was God, how could what he wanted not be according to the will of God? Or say, well, you just didn't have enough faith. It's like, how does, again, if you're God, how do you not have faith in yourself enough to grant what you're asking yourself? But so figure that one out for me.
Yeah, it's almost like trying to take it all literally is a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Right. And you're welcome. So let's see.
Yeah, why do you talk?
Going back, yeah. Yeah, dude down the street from you has a Donald flag, an America flag, and a Confederate flag. Oh, yeah, that tracks. But yep, Genesis blatantly says Adam is a humanoid and Eve was formed from his rib. Also, I found that's actually taken from an older, I want to say like Sumerian legend about like it involves like there's some goddess, I can't remember the names. Dr. Josh Bowen talks about this, but there was a goddess that literally formed from the rib of like Enki, I want to say.
The rib of
Yeah, I don't,
Enki?
what?
Enki and Lil. Why do I know
Yeah,
those
I think
names? What
so.
are they?
It's from like I want to say it's Sumerian, like they're like ancient, mythology, theologies, whatever. Um,
Need to
but
know more
yeah,
about
but
that
yeah. If
because
we're
I like the names in my head.
yeah, but yeah, yeah. So as Daniel says, yeah, Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh, cool. So for made in
That
God's
was
image,
that
he's
was a
one
question I got right in Trivial Pursuit in high school. We were trying to leave, and the car that I was trying to leave in, the driver wouldn't leave until he got another question right, because he was the only person on our team that wanted to stay, or she, or somebody. I think it was a she, because I felt like maybe I had an in when I got it right because I was autistic. And
Yep.
they're like, "What's the oldest known piece of literature in human history?" And I was like, "Epic of Gilgamesh. Let's go." They're like, "How the fuck did
Nice.
you know that?" I'm like, "I'm in college level English in high school. This whole thing. Just smart fucker. Let's go."
Yeah. So we're autistic. We know shit. But yeah. But if we're made in God's image, he was one dysfunctional mofo, right? Yeah. So anyway,
I think we should just accept that we're apes and that apes do certain things and stop calling those things sin. It's all the animal leftover stuff that gets called sins.
hmm
Um, we
yeah,
should just be
and
like,
also
no, that's what happens when you do the human.
yeah, and also stop like telling kids that like, oh, you're clearly born evil because like look at like young children like as they're growing up they're like so selfish and they don't like understand like other people's needs and stuff. Like no, that's just called like natural fucking human development, dude.
Yeah,
Like
remember all those things you can't stop doing is because you're evil, or maybe those things are supposed to happen. Some of
yeah,
them.
like yeah. Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape. I'll keep my paws on myself, thank you. But
I
because
told
that's something that like drives me crazy. Like people will say, like, if you don't think people are just born like sinful and depraved, and you've clearly never had children. It's like, I mean, I've had
it's
two
like,
children.
wow,
Like,
can we take your kids away?
yeah, and also like, how bad are your kids? Mine are pretty awesome. It's like, yeah, obviously growing up
Sounds like
there
you
was
suck as a parent.
right because, I mean, like, because there's also a part of child development that I think it's kind of overlooked because like as like children are starting to develop like a sense of awareness of other people, like it kind of depends, like some of these things come in different orders where they start juxtaposing like seeing other people and then seeing themselves and like trying to balance like what they want and like seeing what other people. But I know like at least for my kids, and I know this isn't just the case for them, but with a lot of kids it's almost like as soon as they discover like the concept of like other people like having like wants and desires and then realizing that they can do things like sharing their toys or giving them food or whatever, like as soon as they realize, oh, I do this thing and it makes this other person happy, then they just start doing it like all the time. So then that eventually gets balanced with a little bit more selfishness. It's like, oh, I'm just going to take, oh, it makes me happy to have your stuff, so I'm going to take yours or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, I will say some
yeah.
kids, um, especially neurodivergent kids, like sometimes they don't realize what their actions do to other people. Like they
There's
don't
that too.
like they
Yeah.
don't want to do anything that hurts other people,
Mm-hmm.
unless they feel cornered in some way. Then they like lash out. Uh, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think there's some bad parents.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, or as Daniel says, yeah, generational curses are another big and stupid one. Hey, one of your ancestors was a bastard, but you're going to suffer for it even though it wasn't your fault. Love God. Also, as we're told, especially in like American Christianity, like collective punishment, like no, that's wrong, obviously, and everyone's like treated as an individual. It's like, God disagrees apparently.
Well, and I think generational curses, that's like another way of saying genetics, but it's evil. Like if you
Yeah,
have like an ancestor who's a bastard, it could take a few generations to get that out of your system.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Or even if it's not genetic, just if they're like abusive or just like other forms of like bad ways to be, like if people grow up in a certain environment, even if it's not genetic, just like the conditioning of, oh, this is normal, this is how you treat people, then that's what they're going to learn and that's how they're going to act. So,
yeah, when kids do like awful things to other people, and it's like it's they thought they were the good guy.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
That left hand path, the right hand path stuff.
Ooh.
I really want to watch all of Aaron's stuff on that because
Yeah. It's good stuff.
I've been noticing that's what's going on right now. We're like the internet has like, and the algorithms on the internet have kind of polarized people into like ones and zeros categories, this or not this, and so it took what was a spectrum, like a political spectrum, and because it wants to feed us content that we want to see, we ended up like sort of brainwashing and polarizing ourselves without knowing that's what we were doing for a lot of it into being more extreme, like a 1 or a 0. And when people deconstruct, their perspective shifts to like the left-hand thinking, and now like everything falls apart. And it really seems like left-hand thinking is more interested in what's true or accurate, I guess, is what comports with reality.
Yeah. 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 I can see that. Yeah. One more thing from Daniel here. Yeah. Christian settlers moving west. Gotta uphold the Ten Commandments. Also, same settlers. Manifest destiny's fine. God said we could kill and steal. Which, I mean, but honestly, that tracks with the Old Testament. If you read, like, literally after God tells them don't kill and steal, it's like, all right, now go kill those people and steal their land.
Yeah.
It's like,
They're like, he moved into an area and then complained about our rights. Like, meanwhile,
right? Yeah.
we were concerned about what the king was doing to us and got all super upset. Meanwhile, we just like we're like moving ass backwards across the country, like ass first across the country, just shitting on all the natives and I don't know. It's so absurd.
Yeah. Yeah.
No wonder we're having like this big reconciling with our racist core. It was kind of how we took over the country. It's kind of how anybody lives where they live right now. It's because some racist violent fuck went out ahead and thought they were probably awesome to their family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, we take care of our own. Yeah.
Sounds a little fascist.
Right. Right.
JD Vance tried to say fascist love was a Christian ideal. Like, first you love your family, and then you love blah blah. Well, because God's so loved the world, He gave His only Son, and the world. He wasn't like, but first my family, and then it's like that's literally not the Christian message at all. You are lying, and you know better.
But in the Hebrew Bible, that's totally what it is. That's totally what it is. Because like God has His chosen people that started with His special family.
Right, but you still love God first. You still love God first. And like if He says fuck your family, then you kill your son. And
yeah. Or in Adam and Eve and like their children's case, literally fuck your family, because what else were they going to do? So
yeah.
But
kind of sounds like that was happening and they were just trying to make it cool. like there was incest happening and they're like, well, that can't be a sin. Like There must be a reason why we don't think that's a sin. It's not that we're awful people. It's that
Right. Yeah. So but back to the whole like why we left and how that's related to like the autism. Like, so what were some things for you? Like whether it's like the whole cognitive dissonance like is apparently a big thing for us autists when it comes to leaving the faith. Like, did that hold true for you, or were there other reasons like connected
yeah,
with that? Or what was
there was
your?
a point where I had a good phrase for it earlier. Um, Something catches your attention, and you're like, "What was that?" It's like
Mhm.
something strikes you in a new way, and it's that cognitive dissonance breaking down.
Yep.
Um, and after that point, it was just done. Like it was all just playing out. Um,
Yeah.
and I was going. I think I was already going like more progressive, like the Greg Boyd stuff when Aaron was working at the church, and
Your wife, Erin.
yeah, um, thanks. And then when she started to have problems at work, and it became like a toxic environment, and they had improvement plan, which was just like, don't you can't sue us because we tried to help you improve. And anyway, and she did, and it didn't matter, and that was kind of clear from the beginning. But that was the thing
Yeah.
that made me just go, what even is all this? Like, if this isn't even,
Yeah.
if you're going to treat people worse than they would be at a company, um, like what even is this?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I realize that
And that
sounds
was
like I have baggage, and I threw God out with the bathwater, and God
right.
seems small if you can do that. I know if people have used throw the baby out with the
Right.
bathwater thing, it's like,
Yeah. If God is who you claim, like that shouldn't even be possible. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So like one of my things like
no
so I saw
star for you.
yeah yeah so there was this meme like like that phrase about like well if like, saying like well it was if you were hurt by the church then like that wasn't God that hurt you, it was people. And then so someone took that meme and then they crossed out the it wasn't God, it was people. It crossed it out and they replaced it with your pain is valid and God sees you. So then I felt the need to further fix that. So I took the like, your pain is valid and God, and I crossed out the sees you and replaced it with could have done something about it. Right? But yeah, so that was, yeah, throwing baby Jesus out with the bathwater. It's like, yeah, chuck that baby. I don't know. Or
I
the
don't
way
know
I
why
like to put
Jesus
it,
had the same skin tone as a Borg in my head. I was like,
interesting.
this is a creepy Jesus. He's like,
Yeah.
out the window.
Oh,
He's
that's
like,
easy. Yeah, but man, what were we talking about? Like, yeah, like you shouldn't be like if God is who we said, like he shouldn't be, we shouldn't be able to throw. What was I just talking about? Uh, Help me out, chat. What was I talking about?
Some people say that in text messages when they're trying to like chat up women. They refer to her as chat sometimes. It was real
Huh.
sad and funny.
I was gonna say like I haven't even done that. Yeah, low Jesus. Resistance to the gospels is futile.
Well, that's kind of the message now. It's the good
Right.
news. It's the good news, brother.
Yeah. Now, real quick, just completely out of curiosity, no obligation for you to answer this, Daniel. But like, I'm gathering we don't actually know you from outside the show, which is odd for like most of our viewers, like historically, or people that we already know, which is awesome. But every once in a while we get people who don't. So I'm just curious, like how you found us. I mean, just
Yeah.
that also might help us
And do we
be
know
more
you?
visible.
If we don't remember you, we're sorry.
Yes, because like I've had a lot of friends named Daniel. I don't remember Price being the last name, but anyway. So yeah, again, if you're comfortable sharing, or like just say like how you found us on YouTube, which apparently is where you're watching from. Like, so maybe that'll help us
Yeah, because
when I'm like adding like tags or whatever to the episode. Like, what should I be putting in there? So, but yeah, so yeah, throwing.
maybe
Damn,
this will
what
help
was
you
I saying?
remember
What was I talking about?
by. Wait, can I tangent you? Will that help?
One way to find out. Go.
There was a bill that passed the House of Representatives in Texas. Speaking of memes, that says that anything you memify, anything political that is satirical, uh, politics adjacent, you have to put a government approved like seal on it saying that like this is not a fact, basically, which is going to look amazing because people are going to put that thing on. People are going to use that like in some kind of guerrilla way.
Oh, for sure.
And it's
So,
going to be
oh, good.
amazing and embarrassing for them.
All right. Well, see, this is why. See, this is interesting that I guess since it was in the title because I hadn't because like I couldn't I can't add tags to the episodes on YouTube until like after like we're done and like it's just published as a video. But I guess I just had it in the title. But cool. But then came back for the Jesus TED Talk this week. Like, I'll be honest, maybe it's a tism. I have no idea what you're talking about there.
You know what a TED Talk is?
No, I know what a TED Talk is, but I don't know what
Okay.
he means by like what Jesus TED Talk. Is that what we're doing this week? Or
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like info emotional recollection.
okay. Well, cool. Well, thanks for attending our TED Talk, I guess, that I didn't know I was having. That's my life.
Did you remember what
doing things I didn't know I was doing? But yes, I remembered where I was going because when you talk about memes, okay, that meme about how when it says like, oh, but they think they make it better by saying, oh, well, Jesus sees, like your pain is valid and Jesus sees you. But I try to like, oh, but if he sees it and if he's Jesus and he's God, he could have done something about it, but he didn't. So like when people say like, well, it wasn't God that hurt you, it was Christians. They're like, okay, but he still let them. He didn't do anything about it.
It's like, why is it so easy to take his teachings and do bad shit with it?
Right? Like, is like, because normally, like, you know, if you're at like in a school and like, and if a teacher is teaching a class, and I mean, in most cases, it's like, okay, if all of your students are failing, then like you're doing something wrong. Or like an analogy I like to use is like if I'm like applying for a job at a company, but like like if I go in like not just for my interview but also to like kind of like talk with people and meet people in different departments and whatever, if they're all telling me different things about like what the company is and like what their main goals are and how they operate and like, oh, and the CEO is like, oh, you can't meet him, he's not here today, but let me tell you about him, but they all say different things about him. Yeah, but if they all say like
what?
Yeah, but if I'm getting, let's say, 45,000 different like versions of what this company even fucking is,
Or
I'll
what
be
it
like,
does, who works
yeah,
here.
yeah, I would be under the impression like this does not sound like it's a very well run company at all, or whoever's in charge is not doing a very good job at vision casting or setting the culture or whatever. But
Wow,
yeah,
Christianity is kind of like the success story of like failing upward.
ooh. Now, I like this. I have no idea what this would look like, but it feels like as an autistic person, this is something I would totally do. Actually, looking back on my life, I think that's
That would be
I
like,
probably have done a lot. Like just in the middle of conversation with people, I'd be like, "Hey, this isn't what we're talking about, but let me tell you about something I'm hyper focused on right now."
that would be,
and then like 30 minutes later, everyone knows way more about German deathcore than they ever wanted to.
it'd be like secular street preaching. I think we need to make that a thing.
I like it. I like it.
Like there's a guy every now and then he must make his round in Cincinnati. He ends up on this one corner near my house, near like on the way to the mall, and anyway, he'd have like a wearing a sign and a bullhorn, telling everybody they're going to hell unless they love Jesus and shit. And I just was standing out there with the sign that says, "You seem pretty great," and just like shout affirmations on the bullhorn.
That's awesome.
It's probably not as bad as you think.
Yeah. But
people would look forward to that, I think.
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah. It'd be like the version of cheesy church signs. You know how they get like the carry out pony keg signs and put the letters on it? And do you know what a pony keg is? Is that only a Cincinnati thing?
I know what it is, yeah.
Okay.
The smaller keg, yeah.
No, but like as a store.
Oh, as a store, yeah, kind of, probably.
It's a smaller store that has beer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a smaller keg, basically.
Yeah. So, so speaking of that meme and like and how I adjusted it and like Christians seem to think it's like a good excuse. It's like, oh, God didn't hurt you. It was like just his kids, basically. But like again, going back to like the illustration, like as parents, because like the Bible and like Christians love to use the analogy of God being a father. It's like, okay, if like say like we're hanging out, like our families, like our kids are like playing, and my kids just all of a sudden just started like beating the crap out of your kids, and I just sit there and just watch, and I don't do anything about it, even though like I absolutely could do something about it. Like, I mean, well, I'd say like I'm not bigger than my son anymore. He's taller than me, but I could still, I'm still stronger than him. Like I could pull him away and like, but like, so if you saw that, like, I mean, yeah, obviously you'd be mad at my kids, but you'd also very rightfully be mad at me for like letting them do that. But, and like, you would not accept like, well, like, it wasn't me, it was my kids doing that to your kids. Like, you can't blame me. It's like, that's bullshit.
Yeah. It's like people know that it's that cognitive dissonance. It's like on some level they must know that if God exists, God is not like who they think God is.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I appreciate the addition of the emoji there because yes, my eyes cannot roll hard enough.
Yeah,
at that.
It's like rolled so hard you flip backward in your chair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so the way I like, because
they don't know how we're so, and then when we're so triggered by that, we're just like, like immediately, they're like,
and then they're like, oh, another angry atheist. It's like,
know,
yeah,
no shit. You're like, allow me to introduce you to confirmation bias.
It seems you've never heard of empathy. Would you care to try?
No, too much empathy is evil, Tommy. Papa Elon
true.
says.
Well, even before that, I think like it was like the Gospel Coalition or somebody like some Christian, like super conservative Christian publication, like had an article called like "The Sin of Empathy" or whatever. It's like,
yeah, but it was even.
Yeah,
this is why I think the algorithms are kind of controlling us, not in the conspiracy theory way, but
yeah,
how quickly. All right, so people are coming to the same conclusion. Too quickly for it to be something that's spread online. It's like it's gotten everybody in sync. Like this whole empathy thing about being bad. I was seeing leftist people on YouTube who, follow trends and news and stuff, and they called it before it even became a thing on the right. Like they noticed it happening that empathy was a bad word, and then it literally became something. It could have been a case that like there was some conservative trendsetter who watches leftists on YouTube, heard it and was like, "Damn straight," and just ran with it.
Yeah,
but yeah, fascist is cool now. There's gonna be a crowd. They're gonna warm up to that word.
Right.
They're gonna be like, "I'm a fascist, so what?"
Yeah, pretty much.
Because they don't understand fucking irony.
Fuck. All right. So, but back to the whole, it wasn't God, it was church people. Like, so there's that angle of it where part of my cognitive dissonance, like, started, like, cropping up. It's like, okay, but if God is all powerful and he's not doing anything about it, and again, going back to my example, just like as a human parent, which, especially compared to God, I'm super limited and super corrupt, apparently. So if I would absolutely, like, when it was within my power to stop it, I would absolutely never let my kids do anything even approaching the levels of like what the church does to people. Like whether it's like spiritual, emotional abuse, like whatever. Like yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like
not. I was about to
so
say it's not acceptable in interpersonal relationships, but I've been watching some like. Oh, my son has introduced me to Reddit subgroup reaction videos,
yeah.
and where the Christian and conservative parents go to find community. Some of the discussions they have are like straight up like advocating versions of child abuse, and
Mm,
in some
yeah.
cases like is a sexual assault gray area. I don't
Yeah.
like that. That's even a phrase I have to say.
Right? Yeah.
Just for example, somebody recommended to another conservative parent. Um, they're like trying how to punish their son, and like, apparently like physical corporal punishment was not off the table, and
Mm,
um, somebody's like, what you do is you wait until they're not going to expect it, and then like if they're in the shower or something, you open it and smack their butt with a belt. And I was like, uh, somebody needs to make the bots be better people.
yeah.
But that was a real
That's
person.
that's something like
Although it's hard to tell on Facebook anymore, but that's happened
yeah.
often enough in ways that like sound human. Um, but I don't know. It's hard to tell anymore. The boomers are bots at this point.
Yeah. But oh, it's a change of pace. Also, if God is omnipotent, why in the hell does he need middle persons to build tax shelters, falsely claiming themselves prophets, saying God told them to, passing collection plates? Right? Yeah, God is like omnipotent and like all powerful and like owns everything, but he still needs your money. So, but yeah, so
Yeah, I think meeting houses became institutions. Yeah,
yeah,
people meeting
it's
together to discuss things related to being better people sounds like kind of awesome. But
yeah,
then, yeah, there's like a whole like cottage middleman industry.
yeah. That's basically like what Christianity is. It's basically trying to be the middleman because like they realize, oh, God's not like showing up and stuff, so somebody's got to, speak for him and whatever.
It's also a
But yeah,
capitalist model. Like the whole point is to, for the church to, in order for the church to function, it needs to benefit more from the interaction than you do.
mm,
um,
yeah,
like they give you a product, but the goal is for the provider of the product to come out ahead uh, in the interaction, and that means they will. Like the house always wins.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but also just wanted to say real quick, like if I haven't said it or said it enough before, like Daniel, I like you. You seem like our kind of people. So
Hmm, hmm.
yeah, so appreciate your interaction. Glad you found us, and yeah,
Tell your
it,
friends.
Yeah.
I don't know, or don't.
Yeah. We understand like that's like we there are some people who watch a show who we know like for various reasons it's not a very good idea for them to be super public about the fact that they watch the show and like it. So we totally get it. But yeah, glad you're here.
Well, one
If
person's
you ever like
employment is over, right? That ended last year, didn't it?
what?
Never mind. Sorry, that was too much inside. That was like too far inside baseball.
I was like, I don't even have any idea who you're even talking about. But
The one who worked for the parachurch organization, Undivided.
oh, well, not that. I mean, I don't know if that's much of an issue for them. I was thinking of some other people, but
Okay, never mind. Misread it.
yeah, yeah. What?
I know.
It's almost like you're autistic or something, and I am. But
It's a double
but yeah,
feedback loop.
with our powers combined, we misunderstand everything. Captain Tism.
Man, do you know how freaky it would be if like Captain Tism had like differently brained rays that he could like fire at
I love that you just rolled with that. That's
that
great.
like fire on
Yeah.
at like typical people and just like suddenly they go from like typical brained to like differently brained and do you know how like man that'd be really funny to watch. Nothing would make sense to them.
But you'd love to see it. But
if you get a
all right,
bunch of autistic people together, like we don't need to talk very much. We tend to have like a general vibe of like how everybody's doing, and
yeah, it's like we all just have that like collective attitude. It's like, well, I'm here if you need anything. Let me know. And then we just kind of get to our stuff, and yeah,
we'd have noisy places and quiet places, and it would just make sense. We keep them separated.
Yeah, because clearly. But yeah, but so back to the whole like having cognitive dissonance around the whole like, well, it's not God that's doing it to you, it's people. But then like, you know, and I don't know if this is necessarily just an autistic trait, but this is something that like autistic people definitely will do is like hone in on like, okay, but why does he let that happen? It's like it's not enough for us to just say, well, it's not God, it's them. I was like, okay, but if you're telling me that God is like completely in control and like we're basically like his children and he loves us, and again, go back to the whole parents thing, if a parent is seeing their children mistreat other people and they're able to stop them, they stop them. Otherwise, they're viewed as horrible parents. So why, like, it's like a weird flex, but okay. Telling me that like this is how God like operates. It's like you're trying to deflect like criticism to him, but it's like you're just piling up more criticism. Really,
I think. Damn it! I hate when that happens.
well, in the meantime,
I just lost my
Charles.
thought.
Well, here's another thought. Charles Xavier to Admiral Autism. I want to learn more about this Admiral Autism before going to fight Magneto.
He likes Star Trek for sure.
Right? I told you not to wear the metal uniform. Jesus Christ, you got distracted by Squirrel NATO again, didn't you? Well, yeah.
Wow, Squirrel NATO sounds terrifyingly fluffy.
Terrifyingly fluffy. Now there's a band name as well.
It's like one end has teeth, the other is fluff. It's like,
and it's just thrown around like this. Yeah.
It's really just a tree rat. If their tails weren't fluffy, everybody would be freaked out by squirrels.
Oh yeah, if they just looked like a rat's tail without the that's basically what they are.
I mean, the rest of them is a little cuter than a rat. The rats can be cute. They're super intelligent.
Yeah, mice are cute. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not very smart though.
Yep, going on the list. All right, so but speaking of like the cognitive,
I just went down a rabbit hole. I was like, what? That's got to be. I don't know. That kind of sounds like something hardcore, but they dress like but they dress like a completely different band, like a
Mm.
Victorian hair metal band.
Ooh. Yeah, I think like terrifyingly fluffy. That sounds like either it could be like a hair metal band, but like a hair metal band that's doing it like for the irony, or
Yeah.
maybe some if people are familiar with like the band Electric Callboy. I'm thinking
Yeah.
that. Um,
Wow, that is weaponized party irony.
yeah, which they're one of those bands like I don't know how to describe it. It's like it's not that I dislike them, but it's like the fact that I don't really like them makes me dislike them more. If that makes any sense.
No.
It probably doesn't, but anyway.
I hate them, therefore I hate them.
No, it's I don't love them, therefore I hate them. It's almost more like that. But
they seem like they shouldn't be as popular as they are. To me,
well,
like
I guess I guess to me it's like I totally understand why they're popular, but for me, it's almost like they might as well only have like 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I love their gimmick and like their whole like thing, but it's like after more than a few songs, it's like, oh, it's that again.
Like I can
Okay.
understand how they're popular, but
Yeah.
not like they're like explosively popular in Europe, and
Yeah.
because for America they're a bit more niche.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they almost seem like a parody of themselves.
Oh yeah, that seems to be kind of their whole thing is yeah. But all right, so something I really want to get into. Well, actually, several more things actually still, but related to the whole God letting this stuff happen thing and like all the cognitive dissonance around that, and sort of I guess a related issue. So tell me if you've heard this before, Matt. So like when someone's going through like a big like struggle or real hard time, or they're really suffering through something, and they're like praying to God like to cure them of the thing or take away the pain or like resolve the issue, whatever it is, but like nothing's happening. Like they're just still in it, like nothing's improving. And I used to find this so comforting, but the way like Christians will say is like, oh, well, God may not be taking away your pain, but he understands your pain and he's with you in the midst of it. You remember hearing that a lot? Or
No,
saying
and
that a lot? Like
that helped me get through my divorce, which I'm not going to say very loud because our kids don't know.
oh.
And I really hope my son's not watching.
Surprise.
Yeah, like as I was saying that, I was like, oh, put them back in, put the words back in.
Yeah, but when you were going through a tough time earlier in your life,
that really helped. But there would have been better things. And that's like it helped. Like I survived.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
that healing process would have been a lot faster.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Religion is just programming that's outlived its usefulness, and it needed an upgrade, an update.
Yeah, new patch, something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then we're like, no, can't fix it because it's never broken.
right, even though that we needed a new covenant because like in Hebrews it like literally said the old one wasn't adequate or whatever. But no, that's not what that actually
We
means.
used to improve things. That's how the Bible was put together in the first place. People were trying to make things better.
Oh yeah, and try to tell a Jewish person it's always been the same. It's like,
No,
they will
we are their Mormons. People in the Christian world and formerly Christian world, like that, we're Mormons to the Jewish people. I've watched the version of our show with ex-Mormons, and I was like quietly horrified Because I'm like, stop,
Oh,
stop, you're making my life bad.
uh,
I
yeah.
was like,
So,
it was like watching a parallel universe version of this, and
ooh,
the Rabbi Tobias
uh, Tovia Singer.
Tovia Singer.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just remembering that while I was watching it. Like, no, that was funny. That like Christianity is
Yeah. What was he said? He said like God made Mormons so that Christians would understand what Jews feel like,
yeah, yep.
which is fantastic.
I
Yeah.
I don't. Should I make a comment about the Middle East right now?
I don't know. Like, there's several things I've been trying to talk about for a while now that we keep getting distracted from.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then no.
Okay. But all right, so for me, like, so that whole idea of like, well, God's not going to take away your suffering, but He understands it, and people often point to like this is like part of why God came as Jesus, so He could enter into our suffering and understand it, like as if like an all-knowing God needed to do that to actually understand. Because then, like, read through the whole Old Testament, like, so God didn't understand people that whole time, but that's a whole other thing. But let's just say, okay, this is what God needed to do to understand our pain. It's like, okay, that's great that He understands, but this is God we're talking about. Like, so if all you're saying is He's not going to fix your problems, but He understands it, it's like, okay, like I can get that from people. And I understand like that can be a very privileged position, because I understand like there's a lot of people who don't get that even from people. So the idea of a God who understands your pain, like in that situation, like, yes, I can absolutely see how that can be super helpful and help you get through whatever it is you're going through. But again, speaking of like why people with autism, like we have issues with this stuff because we don't stop at the thought stopping technique phrases that like apologists will throw out like that. Like we go like, no, I want
Yeah.
to keep drilling down on this, because where my mind goes with that whole like, well, God's not going to take away your pain, but it's okay because He understands it. It's like, okay, like I said, I understand this is a privileged position again, but I can get that from people. But like when I go to God, like again, if you're telling me that this is some all powerful being who loves me and is concerned with me, like if all He does is just understand it but doesn't do anything about it, then what's the point of Him even being God at this point? Like like the illustration I've used before is, so like when I had cancer, like I was receiving like a ton of like sympathy and support and all kinds of love and everything from people in my life who obviously like weren't doctors or anything who could actually like treat me, but they're like, okay, we realize I can't actually do anything to fix your cancer, but I just want you to know I'm here for you. And that was amazing. Like that was something that really did help me get through all of that. But there was a reason I also went to an oncologist, or a cancer doctor basically. It's because, okay, as much as like the support and love I'm getting from everyone as I'm going through this, like as awesome as that is, like I still need to actually fix the problem. So, oh, oncologist, you can fix the problem. I will go to you. Now, it's also great because like my oncologist is awesome and is also very like emotionally like supportive and empathetic and like all the things. But if I'd gone to my first appointment with her, and like from my knowledge, she hasn't had cancer before, but let's say she has. You see, and if I had gone to my first appointment with her, and all she did was like, "Look, I've had cancer. I know what you're going through, and I just want you to know, I'm not going to do anything to actually fix your cancer, but I just want you to know that I am here with you as you suffer through it." I would have said, "Get fucked. I'm finding another oncologist."
Yeah. It's like
Like,
I could, but I won't because that's not the time this happens.
yeah. So, so the idea that like, so I can understand why people can find comfort in the idea that God understands their suffering. Like, yeah, I get that. But what I don't get is how people think that's enough.
Well, when you were saying that, I was thinking about how that really is kind of like outsourcing empathy to God. Because I think what
Yeah.
would be better
Mm-hmm.
than saying like God's right here with you in it is somebody saying I'm right here in this with you. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is way more functional. And
Yeah.
maybe that's where the right gets like confused with empathy, and they're like, no, because that's not for them.
Mm.
Maybe that's where that thinking starts. Like, why is it so easy to move into too much empathy is bad? It's like because that's somebody else's
Mm.
job.
Mm. Yeah. Well, from what I remember, at least, like I said, I want to say it was the Gospel Coalition, but I can't remember. It was at least some organization like that. If people aren't familiar with them, just like very conservative, fundamentalist, evangelical, American Christian, like, yeah. But from what I remember from their article about like the sin of empathy, it was more their fear was if you're becoming too empathetic with someone, if they're going through a hard time or because of sin or like a sinful choice that they're making or a sinful lifestyle, it's like, oh, too much empathy might cross into like what's the word, like not like justifying, but right, I guess maybe just basically like if you're feeling empathetic towards them, then you aren't going to be as convicting towards them about what sin they're
Oh,
doing or whatever.
that's yeah. Because
Yeah.
remember in the mash tent, we were kind of instructed not to have too much empathy. Did you get that
Mm.
vibe?
Maybe kind of. Like I said, I was in it like much less to a much lesser. Well, I guess same extent, but shorter period of time than you were. I was only
We
there
were supposed to
twice. Yeah.
be keep a
Yeah.
kind of the whole. It was basically like leave room for Jesus. Uh,
Right.
keep
Right.
keep a somewhat clinical distance when you're praying for people,
Uh huh.
because
Yeah.
they talked about like empathy. Not they didn't say empathy, but identifying too much with what they were going through uh, put you in danger of being caught up with it. And I was kind of like, isn't that what good people do?
Right. And to answer your question, yes, that is what good people do. But real quick, I want to go back. Point that a minimalist production by the Church of Latter Day Saints. Mormon is less. Mormon is less. I wish I could remember exactly what context this was in, but it's funny anyway.
Yeah,
But
Mormons are nutty.
yeah. Or also here, people going, "Oh, I'll pray for you," as a way to make themselves feel good and like they did something without actually doing anything, well wishing and all that.
Well, because
Great.
you did the
Thoughts?
thing, but not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't.
Thoughts and
All about
prayers?
doing the
No.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, again, if that is like literally all you can do, then yeah, sure, that's great. But again, to the point here, like oftentimes a lot of the people who just offer thoughts and prayers, like I'm looking at you politicians, it's like a lot of times you actually can do more than that. But like I said, it's something I've
But
said like
they don't
to
serve us though. They serve people with money, so they only do as much as the money wants them
yeah,
to.
exactly. But because that's something like as I've like come out to people I'm close with, when I was no longer a believer, and I would have people say things like, "Well, I don't know how you feel about me saying I'm praying for you," because there are, I
That's a
guess,
good question.
unfortunately, yeah,
What a
yeah,
kind thing to ask.
yeah, but but I understand like where they come from because there are a lot of atheists, I would say, unfortunately, who seem very antagonistic towards like when people say they'll pray for them, even if it's not like what could be interpreted as like using it as an excuse to not actually do anything, but like people just to be nice, saying, "Oh, I'll pray for you for this thing you're going through," or whatever.
I don't know why
But
they
like,
get mad. I kind of want to say get over
yeah,
yourself a little bit, but maybe that's
yeah,
not fair.
yeah, because again, I don't know what kind of baggage they have or what
Yeah,
they're going through or whatever. But I know, at least for me, like when like a Christian tells me that they're praying for me, I guess it depends on the context. Like, not the ones who are clearly just think I'm some sort of like depraved sinner now, and the whole like, "Oh, I'll pray for you" is like a very more like condescending kind of thing. But for
So
the
it's
people who
the South's version. It's the North's version of bless your heart.
bless your heart, yeah, exactly. But like for the people who I know who are close with, friends and family, when they say things, "Oh, I'm praying for you," like they'd say like, well, "I don't know how you feel about that," and like the way I tell them is like, "Look, to me, that is you expressing like your love and concern for me. So that's how I receive it. So like the way I've answered, like when people ask me, "Oh, do you believe in prayer anymore?" And it's like, no, I don't believe in prayer, but I believe in the expression of love and concern that other people think it is. So,
Yeah, and
so when someone says like when they're being very genuine and say, "Well, I'm praying for you," I say, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that." But yeah,
I just thought of something. What if I think I would honestly prefer if that someone instead meditate on like wanting that good thing for me and that they care about me. Like instead of like
mm.
asking someone else to do that
Yeah,
for as long as they need to feel good about it. And like what like okay, how about you pray like you're the
right.
person who can do that.
Mm. Yeah, if they can, yeah, for sure.
Uh
Yeah,
because that might
yeah.
actually have some kind of effect.
Oh,
Consciousness is
for
real.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's throw this up real quick. Yeah, I completely respect people's First Amendment rights to freedom of religion, but have to explain to them it also means freedom from religion. Yes. If faith makes you feel better, fine. Just don't force it. Absolutely. No notes. So,
Right, but they don't think that.
yeah.
Instead, they're like,
Yeah.
"You're the bad guy for saying that."
Mm-hmm.
Because America's a
Yeah.
Christian nation. What the?
Uh,
We were literally the world leader in slave exports for a while. They don't. That's
mm,
our history. They don't. It should be in our history books in school. It isn't. Like,
yep.
and you know how you export slaves? You have breeding plantations where it's institutionalized SA for profit.
Yep.
And that's also why I think this is my theory. That's also why I think a lot of our sports are dominated by African Americans, Black people, because in America they were bred for They were bred like horses, and
Yeah. For certain body types.
right,
Yeah.
and so because in Africa, like different regions have like different ranges of body shapes, and America's weird. Like which we teased. Remember Matt Evans? Sorry, I said his full name, but we teased him for having old man strength. He
Yeah.
didn't work out, but he was kind of ripped. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he was an older black guy in the fraternity that I was a part of, and that Tommy lived at.
Yeah. I lived in their house, but yeah.
You were the
But
dark
yeah.
horse in that house. That's when you were wearing like your black trench coat and shit.
No, yeah. Mm,
People
yeah.
thought you were like dangerously close to being left or something.
Interesting. That's something I'd like to pick your brain on more at some point. But so, anything else you wanted to say on the whole, like, God could fix this problem, but he's not, but we're supposed to be cool with that angle?
I I don't know. That's just a whole lot
Yeah.
of concern that
Yeah.
causes.
Yeah. Because I like, there was one other topic I really wanted to talk about tonight, but so I want to make sure we get to that. But before we move on, I just want to make sure there's
Yeah, I
nothing
kind of
else in
put my
that.
edible away before I have way too much. 50 milligrams. Wait, is it 50 milligrams per edible? My
Ooh.
cousin goes. it says high dose on there, but he's like, it's 50 milligrams. He's like, you'll probably be all right. So
He believes in you. I like
I'm
that.
only having half.
All right.
Because
So
he doesn't have a frame of reference anymore. His tolerance is wicked high.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So I want to touch on something. This is like related to something we've already been talking about, the whole, framing Christianity as a relationship, and how to a lot of maybe more neurotypical Christians, and especially ones who are more okay with like the mystery and everything. That seems great, but like folks like us, it's like kind of not. Something that, and again, like, this is something I actually made like a little short video about recently. I think I shared it to like the humanities page as well, but about like Christianity and unfalsifiability, particularly around the topic of like God is always good, He's always faithful, He never forsakes us, never abandons us, whatever. Like wanting to like ask Christians, and this is something I have asked, is like, okay, well, how do you know He hasn't? Because like, because you're just saying, oh, God never forsakes us. Like, well, if He did, what would that even look like? Because I feel like in a lot of these conversations where someone would say, oh, I feel like God has abandoned me, like Christians will always have these answers like, well, He really hasn't, and maybe you just need to look at it differently, and like, so basically just like redefine
you first,
everything.
dipshit.
Yeah, right. So but it's like, at what? So that's why. Okay, well then, at what point would you admit? Okay, this is God abandoning you. Like, is that even a concept in your mind that is even possible? But because if you're not,
Yeah.
and I,
Because it could be true.
yeah. So if you have no idea what it would look like for Him to do that, then how do you know He hasn't? So, but yeah. We'll get back to go through a couple of Daniel's comments here. If you want to pick his brain, you got to figure out the bandana's security code first. Unfortunately, I have no idea what. Oh, this talking about Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. But also, yeah, if God is always good, explain Job. You can't. That's the fun part.
Because what was God's response? He's basically like, where do you even get off asking me questions?
But what I like is, according to some interpretations, like, because at the end, like after God goes through his whole rant, like, where were you when I made all the fucking shit? Like Job basically, like he says, like, I've said what I said and now I will cover my mouth. But like a lot of the interpretations view that is like him like covering his mouth, is saying like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. But like I've heard other interpretations say like, no, that's really Job saying like, look, I said what I said, I'm done talking. Like, you heard it, you heard me. But then after that, when God turns to Job's friends and starts chastising them, that's really like God kind of vindicating what Job said. He's like, yeah, you know what, Job, you're right. Friends, fuck off, But
no, that makes way more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, but this whole idea of God never forsakes you. And like I said, a lot of Christians say, well, I feel like, well, because of like this dark time I'm going through, I feel like God has forsaken me. But Christians will say, well, yeah, he's forsaken me. No, but Christians will just say, well, he just hasn't. Like they'll just say that as if it's just like matter of fact. And like, well, if it looks like
you're really bad at gaslighting.
Yeah. So, all right. So to link this back to the whole like autism thing and how we're supposed to have this relationship with God in a way that doesn't make sense to our brains. Because again, going back to like when I was initially like deconverting, like way before I had any idea that I was autistic or what that even meant or anything, like the thing that I kept getting accused of Christians was, oh, well, you just want too much certainty. Like you can't keep expecting answers for everything. It's like, why not?
I
like,
thought we were supposed to be certain. I thought that's what faith was about.
Yeah. And also, like, if God really loves me,
you're just asking for too much faith, is what they were saying.
Right? Yeah. And it's like, and if God loves me and wants me to like feel secure in my relationship with him, like wouldn't he want to give me some kind of something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and if he's not obvious anymore to you, then maybe he cut you off. If
yeah,
there is a God, so why not
right.
just go along with that?
Yeah. Now
Kind of
to
up to him anyway.
right. Yeah. Now to put on my Christian apologetic hat again, as much as it pains me. So if God never forsakes you, there wouldn't be a hospital full of children with cancer called St. Jude. Well, see, Daniel, you just don't see the big picture. And you don't understand the character that God is building in all those children by going through this hardship. And you
It's
know what? If they die, well, hey, that just means they go to be with Him. I mean, unless they're like Muslim or Hindu or just not Christian, then.
or
But
not,
hey,
or the
but hey,
Catholics would say not baptized.
we don't talk about that. you know. So, all right. So
Well, God needed to kill all those kids. It was for the greater good.
it's like, look, His ways are higher than your ways. So, and fuck you for asking. Um,
Was it like he had to? Is it like tickets at the arcade? Like kids with cancer, they had to like cash them in to like prevent second Hitler or something. Is that what? Was there not enough
what?
kids with? Was there not enough kids with cancer, and that's why we like Donald Trump happened? I'm saying it's transactional. Like he pays for future good things with the temporary bad. And when people say, "Well, it's all for God's glory," or "It's all for the great," but they're basically saying it's all for the greater good. So I'm like, what? What was
I'm
he?
sure you're making a great point, but I'm just, for whatever reason, just not following you. But
It's
that's
also
okay.
possible I'm doing a terrible job of putting my brain on the outside right now.
Uh, but hey, that's fine. Um, uh, where was I? Oh yeah. So with this idea of, well, if God actually did forsake you, what would it look like? Okay, so here's like my example,
Kind of like
because I feel
this.
like in right, because I feel like in all these examples that people bring up, well, this is what it feels like. This is why it feels like God forsaking me. But like the Christian will say, oh, but He's really not. But I feel like in any other circumstance, if you were having this experience with any other person who was like supposed to be like in this loving relationship with you, and they were either treating you like this or allowing this to happen to you when they could stop it, like you would in any other circumstance, I feel like we absolutely would say, oh yeah, they've abandoned you, they've forsaken you, they're not taking care of you, whatever. Okay, so to bring it back to the whole autism thing and this whole idea of how you're supposed to have this relationship with this being that you can't see or really interact with, I'm like, so, and in my deconversion, where Christians were accusing me of wanting too much certainty or too many answers, so one of the things that they would throw out is like, "Oh, that's your thinking is just way too Western. Like you're being too like rational and like empirical and wanting evidence and like, well, first of all, like a proof to me.
God, that's so.
Okay, well,
It's just idiot. It's such idiot language out loud. How do they not hear what they're saying? Like,
right, yeah. So for me, so my first question is, okay, well, first, how do you know that? Who says that more Western thinking is wrong? Like, I mean, I could like if I can say to you, "Oh, the reason you're accepting all of this stuff on such little evidence is because you're thinking too Eastern." Like, does that make sense as some kind of like accusation or defeater or whatever? But then also, the more I've learned about like autism and the way our brains work, it's like what you're maybe interpreting as more Western thinking as far as like wanting answers and wanting to really like drill down on stuff. Like, no, that just sounds like. I mean, yeah, you could say that's more Western thinking, but also like that's just the way a lot of people with autism think. That's a lot the way our brains work with things. So,
yep.
so first of all, like, why would God? So, if it is just being too Western versus too Eastern, it's like, okay, well, why would God make Himself that an entire hemisphere would have a harder time approaching Him? But then, but if it is like the autism, it's like, okay, so God is expecting this relationship with me on a certain level, but the way He set things up, it makes it much more difficult to achieve with a certain type of brain. and he gave me that brain. Like,
You have to see it the
if
way the
that's,
majority sees it.
it's like, okay, if he's wanting me to get to know him, but I can't because he intentionally made me in a way that it's harder for me to do that, how is that not, how am I not supposed to feel forsaken by that? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like if I was like, let's say like I moved away like to another continent, but then I wanted to like hang out with all my friends who were still here in the States, and I said, "Hey, I'm inviting you all over to like come visit me in like Mongolia or wherever the fuck I am in this situation." It's my situation. I don't even know where I am, and I'm still saying wherever the fuck I am. But anyway, I'm in Mongolia, sure. So I like tell all my friends who are still here in the States, "Hey, y'all should come visit me. I'm having a party." But I can't pay for your plane tickets or anything, so I'm just inviting you all. But I know for certain of my friends would not be able to afford it, and some would, and I know that full well when I'm sending these invitations out. Like, how would my friends who were not able to make it like not feel like left out? Like, so I feel like this is like, according to what Christians are telling me, like I feel like this is how God is setting up the scenario where he's expecting everyone to approach him, but on certain terms, and he creates certain people for whom those terms are much more difficult, if not just outright impossible. It's like, if that's not forsaking people, then what the fuck is?
Yep. It's kind of like Christianity and capitalism were tailor made for each other.
Ooh.
So I was
Yeah, I
just
mean,
thinking
Jesus
about
in
how
some of his
easily that.
parables seems, as much as like people like, especially on the left, like to say, "Oh, how much of a socialist Jesus was." According to some of his parables, he seemed pretty capitalistic, to be honest. But
Yeah, or at least speaking a language that, like the crowd he was talking to, was
yeah,
capitalistic. Um, yeah, I was just thinking about how like marketing for products really plays off that feeling forsaken thing, and actually kind of like creates and like widens that sense of lack to sell you things to fill it that won't. Like some things you
right,
need, and then there's a bunch of other shit you don't need. Um, yeah, it
yeah.
really very similar. I don't know if that's actually Christianity or just the Western version of it that is so ate up
Mm.
in a capitalist way.
Yeah, it's hard to tell anymore. There's just no standardization for this stuff anymore. But yeah, as Daniel says here, yeah, most autistic people are concrete and literal thinkers and question these things. Yep, can confirm, because the math doesn't math. Like, if God is supposed to be love, why do I have to blindly trust or be damned? Yeah, exactly.
Well, they would say it's not blind trust. It's and then they would use other words to say the same
No,
thing.
yeah, it's not blind, but faith, like even according to the Bible, is like talk about like the evidence for things unseen. Like unseen, that's like literally blind. Like,
That's probably where the phrase came from.
yeah. Well, and also like, and something we've talked about before when we discussed faith, like at least in the like communities we were a part of, and I know this is not unique, but they wouldn't word it this way. But the way I kind of started viewing it, it's almost like having strong faith was basically just a euphemism for being really good at denying reality. Because the test was like, are you going to hold fast and believe these principles? Like, no matter what things actually look like, and no matter what evidence is stacked against it, or what contrary experiences you're actually having, it's like, you're just going to believe this no matter what. It's like that's a cult. Like,
And
so
in my experience, probably yours too.
yeah,
Like
I'll be right back.
asking why about everything, like the beginning, kind of the deconstruction mindset. asking why, and then when you get an answer, ask why. Um, that will, if you're a Christian, doing that will actually get you closer to God until everything turns
Mm-hmm.
inside out and God is gone. uh, but I think that's an important thing for everybody to do. Like, if you're a Christian, ask why, try to figure out why.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah. And
you will get closer to God, but like, be warned, at some point, getting closer to God makes him disappear.
yeah, because
And maybe that's the point. Maybe we designed this thing over time. Part of our brains that designed this whole religion thing to get us to ask why, to seek the
mm-hmm.
big why, and
Yeah.
and then at that point we're ready to see the big why, and the big why is actually very scientifically complicated.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But no less deep in the experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's very probable this is all, best description would be a simulation. It's like we
Mm.
are having a first person experience of everything happening in this vicinity.
Yeah. Which
um,
is, yeah, interesting to think about, to say the least. Yeah. But with the whole like questions thing and like how that should be like good for your faith is like question thing. And like, because like a lot of like Christians or churches or whatever, like will pay lip service to the idea of like, oh, we welcome your questions. And like, but it still seems
don't
very
be weird
much,
about it.
yeah. But it's almost like they welcome your questions because, oh, we can answer them for you. That seems to be the approach. It's like,
Or we'll
yeah, keep
correct your
asking your
questions.
question. What's that?
Or we'll correct your questions.
Right. Yeah,
What
but
you
it's
should be
almost like,
asking is this.
yeah, but it's like we welcome your questions, but they're not willing to actually go where those questions actually lead you. It's like, well, let's figure out how we can give our already like pre-made answers to your questions.
And we
So,
welcome your questions, but we don't
yeah,
welcome all of you. That's kind
right.
of the subtext.
Yeah. I mean, and this is why, like, again, as much as they might try to distance themselves from this kind of thinking, but that was essentially by experience, even in like the progressive and like deconstruction, like Christian circles. Like, those were the people telling me, like, oh, I was expecting too much as far as like certainty and answers. It's like, okay, it's like you're telling me you're welcoming my questions and everything, but it's like, but you still don't like the conclusions I'm actually coming to. That's one of the last things. Like I'm thinking, especially of this Facebook group I was part of. That was like all centered around like deconstruction. Like that's what essentially made me leave the group. It was like because when I started even just questioning Jesus himself and saying like, here's why I'm not really a fan of Jesus. But I was getting like all kinds of to the point where like I initially like submitted a post and like one of the admins actually like declined it. Now to his credit, he was someone like he's not someone I actually know, but like I'd interacted with some on Facebook and we'd like message each other a little bit. So I messaged him and saying like, hey, why was this declined? And like he told me why, and like we had a little back and forth, and he eventually said like allowed it through, but then I started getting all this like negative feedback and like stuff on it, and then he messaged me back and say, see, this is why. I'm like, I feel like this group isn't for me anymore.
Wait, so you're like, don't we don't want anything posted that shows how close-minded people are here.
Well, what he said was, I don't see what this adds to the conversation. And I'm like,
Oh, you were
well,
adding something to the conversation. The response wasn't like the negative responses. Like, that was
mhm,
the issue. Not that you approached the subject. The
yeah.
problem was the
But
response, and he admitted that basically by saying, "See, it's like, don't do these things that make them do this." That's why we don't allow that here,
yeah, so
because the children get angry.
yeah, so that was kind of like because it's and this is something we've talked about before. And this is I think I'd love to do like a whole episode just on like the like deconstruction scene and like progressive Christianity because it seems like they like to present the community as being just like so completely open and accepting of everything, but once you start asking, like, there are definitely like wrong questions or wrong statements to make, because it's almost like there are definitely borders. It's like there's a certain line you have to cross in order to be in the community, because it's like it almost doesn't matter like what else you are, like what issues you are like fully deconstructing and like changing your opinions on, but like, say for instance, but if you still think homosexuality is a sin, well then you're just you're not welcome here. It's like
Yeah, there's
you
definite
like you could say like
gatekeeping.
whatever you want about like I've rethought like atonement theories, I'm a universalist now, but I still think homosexuality is wrong. It's like, well, you're just not welcome.
It's like I don't
So
know if
there's
you're
like,
really deconstructing at that point so much as you just like separated from the main encampment and made your own smaller one nearby.
well, but I mean, but that's the thing. They try to present deconstruction as it's like as soon as you start questioning anything, then hey, welcome in. Like we're glad, but it's like, but if you haven't questioned certain issues, they're like, well, you don't belong here yet,
Yeah, and then there's
kind
certain
of thing.
issues like Jesus.
Yeah.
If you do question them, now you've gone
Right.
too
Yeah. So
far.
that's like the line on the other side is like, okay, but you can't go that far. It's like, so you have to go at least this far, but you can't go farther than this.
Now, if they were aware of
Yeah.
that, if they knew that they were creating a community like in that niche, like that niche, that phase of transition, like they're building a community that serves people in that phase. Uh, if they were aware of it, would it still be a problem? If they're like, that's outside of the scope of this community, or
Hmm. Yeah. Now, yeah, I could say more, but like I said, I think this should be like another episode. I'd love to
okay,
drill into this more, but yeah, but again, like bringing it back to the whole like autism thing, like, yeah. So I guess like, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to express like on your end about how you felt like being autistic really was a big part of why you deconverted, and like whether it was like the cognitive dissonance kind of stuff, or just you like not like asking questions and not being satisfied on certain things, or in whatever way that may have looked
um,
like for you. Yeah.
it gave me a framework to mask within, um,
Mm.
like rules of behavior. Just like, this is what happens in this place.
Mm.
People being nice as a habit was appealing,
Mm.
even if it wasn't always
Mm.
genuine, because finding community can be hard if
Yeah.
you don't like relate easily to many people, or to most people. Like, most people are fine, but you don't,
Hmm.
like, you're not on the
Yeah.
same wavelength. So basically, it was a place where neurotypical people wanted me around, like scores of them wanted me around, and
Right.
uh, that was really appealing. Um, there was some, I don't know. It was it did kind of help me develop a connection to other people in it, like I would probably an autistic
Mm.
way, on like a gut instinct level, um,
Mm.
and noticing patterns in people's
Mm.
behavior and
Yeah.
how to navigate that. Um,
Yeah. Would you say it helped that like the religion kind of like added structure to social interactions?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, especially in the prayer tent place where there was a like a
Hmm.
literal framework to fall back on for the interaction. Not only did it was it to fall back on, like you had to follow some form of it, and you had to do it in a particular order, and you couldn't skip a step,
Hmm.
especially the step where you invite the spirit in after you cast things out, because then they might come back with like,
Right.
I don't know, those was like 70 demons to a dirty house or clean house. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, because the spirit loves people so much, but he can't like
You gotta say the
rescue
magic
them
words.
unless. Right. Yeah, that's why. Like, as much as I love my kids, like if I see one of them running out into the street and like a bus is about to hit them, I'm not gonna rescue them unless they ask me.
And they don't have to do it unless you say the magic words.
Right. Yeah.
uh, I think now that I'm reflecting, um,
Ooh.
I think there was a point where my spirituality, right? So within the prayer organization that we were in, there was a hierarchy, and there's like a leadership spectrum, and it became clear that like I was one of the people that had been there, like involved in it, like since the beginning. Um, Possibly the person who was there at more events than anyone else. Like over, I don't know
Mm.
for sure, but I was definitely one of them.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it was clear there was a point where like I wasn't going to move up in leadership, like beyond a certain point, because I was too different. And there was a like uber masculine, typical brained clique that was always in leadership, and there were people who were like uh didn't have as much experience, and they were like given like at some point basically kind of like referee, spiritual referee, walking around in the prayer tent. I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell is happening? I'm like,
Uh-huh.
there's a vibe here, and like I don't know, it was frustrating when I realized like being me was keeping me in a particular level in the hierarchy, and that was part of the disillusionment.
Mm.
Not
Yeah.
because like it was it was less an issue that like I mean I was a leader, like a group leader at one point, actually like 2 or 3 times, but it was more that like I was just being ignored. Like I wasn't even wasn't like I was like over. Wasn't that I was over. I was overlooked. I realized it sounds like I'm like I didn't get mine, and it was more like I
Mhm.
realized people don't see me. That's what it was more like. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, they don't really see me.
Mm.
Um, or things I do. There are things about me that are me that seem to be a problem for them. Um,
Hmm.
and then I like told them that like I thought gay people were cool, and man, you would have thought I told them I didn't love Jesus anymore.
Well, because to them, that's basically what you were saying,
Because how could you? How
right?
could
Because
you?
like Jesus clearly hates them, even though he literally never talked about it. But
I really want to just.
yeah.
Can we popularize like trolling Christians with biblical truth? like, like just
Yeah.
like get a sign on
Yeah.
your car that says Jesus loves gay dudes.
Yeah.
like,
But
prove me
and this
wrong.
and this is maybe a tangent, which is so unlike me. But on the other side of that, like I think maybe like the more like progressive Christians maybe go too far because like yeah, it's true that like Jesus never like talked about homosexuality or transgenderism or like anything in like that whole like the LGBTQIA plus community.
It's like counter fundamentalist.
Yeah, yeah. So they could say like yeah, he never talked about it. So but honestly, like again, assuming the historical Jesus was a real person, like I think it's one thing to say that he didn't talk about it, which he didn't, but I think it's a complete other to say, like, do you honestly think he'd be okay with all of that?
Well, I don't know. If we're talking about historical Jesus, no. If we're talking about like retconned, uh, which has now become more like vision casting for like ideal human, progressive
Yeah.
Christianity is really just like transition, I think, until to a kind of hopeful humanism. Um,
Hmm. Yeah. I
Not
mean,
that
which was part.
humanism isn't hopeful, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like like kind of like
Yeah.
faith in a particular outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's like I said, that's part of the reason. And again, going back to like with that group, like with my posts about how I had problems with Jesus, I think that was part of what I was trying to get at. Is like, okay, like I started to realize, okay, all you people who are, because like part of my problem with the progressive, like deconstruction, whatever Christian movement, is it seemed like okay, they looked at the Bible, and so first of all, like they acknowledged, okay, there are some like very different, often contradictory views of God and like what He's actually like in here. So usually the what they do is okay, we'll settle on like the images of God that are like more loving and more accepting, and like the ones that don't look like that, then we'll either just flat out say they're wrong or say, oh, there must be something else going on here, or we just don't have the whole whatever. But to me, like the problem is, it's like I guess I'm trying to break people of feeling like obligated to give any sort of like authoritative reverence to like anything in the Bible to the point where it's like when you're, it's like we think about like any other like contemporary or not contemporary, but just any other like ancient document, religious or not. Like no one else like puts this level of like effort into trying to figure out like well, what's like. 'Cause I guess basically what I stopped doing was looking at the Bible and seeing all these different ideas, and I just stopped thinking, well, one of these has to be right. Because it seems like that was the approach. It's like, well, we have these different views. Well, one of them has to be right. It's like, or like none of them are right, or none of them are completely right.
Well,
Like,
there's gonna be one that's better than the rest, but
right. So again,
they're mistaking that for correct.
right, yeah. So because that's when I would talk to the people who say, well, anything like Jesus was all about like love and acceptance. Like, which first of all, if you actually read the Gospels, no, he wasn't. But
Depended who you were,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. But okay, let's just grant that and say, okay, yeah, that's what Jesus was. And then they say, okay, well, any parts of the Bible that depict God as being different than that, then those are wrong. It's like, well, how do you know that the Jesus part got it right? Maybe it was actually like the genocidal, racist God in other parts of the Bible that is actually accurate, and it was like the Jesus parts that got it wrong.
What if we
Like,
don't take issue with them and instead, depending on the person, I'm not saying like across the board, we just kind of like encourage them in that like keep moving in that direction.
yeah, because
Because
that's
I
what I
think
try
not
to.
everybody can hear. Uh, it's kind of like liberals will like come across Antifa people and uh, shit. Now somebody's listening.
Yay, welcome.
uh, it's like how like the left and the further left, like the more center left looks at the further left and just goes, "Man, they're crazy." It's like they're just taking your ideas to the logical conclusion. Like you don't see that. That's how like
Hmm.
progressive Christians are with like atheists. Like,
Hmm.
no, you've gone too far. You've thrown baby out with the bathwater. It,
And the way I like to
your
respond to
church
that,
hurt's getting in the way. Just
yeah, yeah, no,
insert cope here.
yeah. The way I like to put it, it's like, no, I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like I just found out that there was no baby in there to begin with. There was maybe like a baby-sized turd, but,
What am
but
I doing watching this baby that's not here? This has been a whole
yeah,
waste of time.
yeah. So like, I'm basically like, prove to me that there is a baby in here, and they have yet to do so. They have only to chastise me for expecting proof that the baby's there.
What if Christians are right for the wrong reasons? My brain just spit that out. I don't know what that means.
Oh yeah, I mean, that reminds me of something Sam Harris said. It was like, I'm trying to remember exactly how he worded it, but something like religion offers a lot of terrible reasons to do the right thing when better reasons are available, or something like that.
It's a halfway house to becoming a better person.
Yeah, so this is what I like to tell people, like related to this. It's like, so for the people who feel like they need like the God belief to either make them a better person or to help them through like whatever they're going through in life. Because I've had conversations with people who like appreciate like what I have to say. They're like, yeah, you make a lot of really good points. Like you really make me think about like what I think about God, and like, yeah, a lot of stuff you're saying makes sense, but it's like, but I just can't let go of the belief because I feel like there's just been so many things in my life where it's like, I just couldn't make it through all of this without God, or at least without believing that God's there. And like,
Like, what if you actually did?
And I get that, but that's what I love to tell them is like, okay, but here's the thing: all this stuff that you've made it through in your life, that you thought you could not make it through that without God. If there is no God, then you did. It's like me telling, okay, you've made it through all this shit. Me telling you right now that there is no God does not change the fact that you've made it through it. It just means you made it through it. And so to me, that's incredibly like empowering and encouraging. So even when I get the accusation like that people like to throw, especially towards like people want to consider me like,
this is real short. There's another option that like another God did it and you mistook it. Like
there's that too, but
that could throw him for a loop also.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, it was actually Krishna. But the like the accusation that a lot of atheists get is like, oh, you're just basically like atheist evangelists. They're like, why would you try to talk people out of like belief? It's like, first of all, you're saying like you're just assuming like atheist evangelist is a bad thing, which I'm like everyone
rules
like,
for thee, but not for me.
Right, but like, I mean, this is just what people do. Like when we think a certain way or we have certain thoughts, like we like other people to agree with us.
Why are religious people the only ones who are allowed to evangelize things?
Right?
Like,
so, but
yeah,
but like when it comes to this, like when people say, "Oh, you're just trying to evangelize for atheism," like, well, okay, yeah, but when I look at it from the angle of people like viewing the things that they've made it through, like in terms of you made it through this without God, and I'm not saying necessarily by yourself, because like I say all the time, like the things I've been through in my life, I've made it through because of the other people in my life. So whether it's like trying to make someone feel like empowered in and of themselves or just like empowered because of the community they have around them, it's like if there is no God, but people are making it through this stuff, like why would I not want them to realize that? Like, of course I'm going to be evangelistic about this to people. Like, it's so incredibly empowering. So, yeah, I'll take advantage of this lull in the conversation. As Daniel says, also, it would further prove God is a sadist, creating a highest order species only to watch them suffer and make each other suffer while he sits back watching, eating popcorn. Yeah.
I think it's all just
right.
I think it's all just shit playing out. Like one thing playing out, and we mistook that one thing for God. We mistook the universe for God. That's where I am with it.
Yeah. I mean, and there's been like books and studies on all this. Like humans, like we search for agency because there's just something in our like evolutionary past where it's been beneficial for us to try to find like agency and intelligence behind certain things. So yeah, there's a couple books. I'm working through one of them by this guy John Wathy. He has a couple books, The Phantom God and The Illusion of God's Presence, where that's basically like what he's
Whoa,
tackling is
the
like,
illusion of God's presence.
yeah, so basically what he's tackling is like just the completely like naturalistic, like neurological, biological, evolutionary reasons that people search. Like one of the books, like I said, I got one of them. I think the one I have is The Phantom God, and the other one, The Illusion of God's Presence. Like I said, I've only started. I think still might be in chapter one, so I don't remember which book is more on which topic, but one of them is more like why, just like evolutionarily and like naturalistically speaking, like we're wired to search for like agency or like what we call God behind everything. And then the other one is more about like why we interpret things like a certain way to like to be God or like divine or whatever. But yeah, I have heard him like in interviews and stuff. Super interesting. So that's why I said I recently got the book. I just started reading it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into more of that. So yeah, John Wathy, The Illusion of God's Experience and The Phantom God. So look it
I
up.
can't not hear Phantom Menace when you say that.
Cool. Yeah.
Jesus, Darth Maul as Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so many long for that deeper meaning or hope that there's something beyond the one life you get when there isn't. And they spend most of that one life wasted worrying about pleasing imaginary friends. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's been like one of the main things for me, like since deconverting, especially given the context of like me deconverting, coming off of like, surviving stage 4 cancer and at a point being pretty convinced, like, yeah, this is probably it. And then all of a sudden it just wasn't, which is like weird in all the best ways. But, but yeah, just I mean, I'm not saying I'm convinced that there is no afterlife or anything supernatural or anything beyond this. I'm just not convinced that there is.
hmm
So in the meantime, like when it comes to like how I live my life, I'm just not banking on it. Like I'm just saying like all I know for sure is the life I have right now. So that's how I'm going to live my life is according to the idea that this is all I got. Now,
yeah.
if there happens to be more after this, then hey, like I said, I'm open to being pleasantly surprised. But
I think
yeah,
I think where I am right now is that I think there is probably an experience of being us after we stop being us. I know it doesn't make sense.
correct.
Um, but I don't know what that means. I mean, I don't know. Kind of like there's a bigger us. I don't know. There's the way I look at consciousness right now is it's like a node of a larger consciousness. Um, I don't know. Lots
Yeah,
of different things going on in my head, but I like that.
yeah,
That's how it feels right now. That's all I know.
hmm
Uh,
yeah,
there's I think living your life like you can bank on a particular version of what happens next, like in any way, is man. It's just the beginning of things being worse, like in some way.
yeah. Right.
But it's gonna feel better. It's bad software.
Something like that. Yeah. So a part of me is I don't know if lamenting is the right word, but it's the word that came to my mind, so it's what I'm going to use. But like just how often like in tonight's episode, we kind of got off topic and
So,
not necessarily like
man, when does that happen?
I know, but let me cook.
Okay.
But I feel like there were so many topics we talked about where we weren't necessarily connecting it to, oh, this is like the reason like the autism brain like thinks this way, and like, but even when we were just talking about issues we had with Christianity, like I feel like that's why it's like it's because our brains work the way we do. So even when we were being off topic, we were still being very on topic. So
And maybe that's
so.
why when like in different small groups, you'd bring up a question or say something, and people would just be like, "What?"
Yeah, like yeah, because that's like when so many times when I do start like really like hyper focusing on something and like really trying to like hammer on an issue and like drill down, like when I keep asking like, okay, but why? Like, how do you know that? But why? Like,
I was
it seems like
told like looking for needing an explanation is bad. That was
right.
nearly
Yeah.
what I was told, almost verbatim by somebody.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, it's like, okay, but how can you not expect that? And because like when people say like you're being too demanding, you're expecting too much evidence, like how can I be too demanding for God?
How can I be expecting
Like,
too much? What is this? What
yeah,
is he busy? Like, what?
it's like when it comes to like an infinite, all-powerful being who loves me like to the utmost possibility that it is to love anything, like
It
how is
has all the time and
expecting?
all the effort available in the world.
Yeah, it's like how is expecting too much even a thing like that? That makes no sense. But I would be, oh, well, that's because you're thinking about it too much. You're expecting it to make sense. It's like,
And if you keep insisting on
yeah,
having an answer for things that should have an answer, uh, you start quickly turn into a threat to them. Um,
mm,
like I had that happen where I
mm,
couldn't get off of something, and some
mm,
dude got mad, like real mad.
mm.
It's like,
Yep,
and then he was like, "We didn't change, you did," in regard to something I said, and I was like, "What is wrong with you?" That's what I wanted to do. I didn't do that.
right, yeah, right,
I, we didn't change, you did. Said the good person always? No. What is it?
right, yeah. So, was it meant to sound cynical? Like, that's fine.
I didn't take it
It's
that way.
ironic that we form sects to find higher order in human consciousness and spirituality, but many of those constructs, religion, treat people like shit to do so. Yeah, I mean, if you weren't meaning to
Everybody's
sound
exposable.
cynical, like
I said
uh,
exposable. I meant disposable. Like,
disposable,
yeah. God, yeah.
dispensable.
Everybody's potentially disposable for the good news.
Yep.
It's a good day to die. That's what they put on the staff exit entrance at our old church.
Yep.
Die to yourself daily, said the really bad therapist.
Yeah. Die to yourself. Like, yes, the self that God made you to be. You need to die to that.
You
It's
need
like,
to
well, then what?
conform.
It's like, well, then why did He make myself this if I need to die to it? And yeah, so I'm feeling like at least I need to wrap up. Um,
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. It
yeah.
is. It is late.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess to conclude, it's like I'm just so tired of like the Christians who keep telling me that my mindset is wrong as I approach like genuinely. I mean, I'm not in that place anymore, but like when I was like genuinely trying to find answers, like where I wanted to know God more, like I wanted Him to show me that He was real. And again, before knowing this was like because of autism and like all the problems that was, you know, problems that was causing for me. Um, but like where I was like, all I want is assurance. Like, first of all, that he even fucking exists, and then yeah, and real quick, yeah. Have a good one, you too, Danny. Thanks for like you've been like sticking around the whole time. You were here from the very beginning, and
Yeah,
interacting all the way throughout. Like
that was fun.
mucho appreciationismo. Those are words. Um,
You made up a language.
I like it. But yeah, but seriously, appreciate the hell out of you, dude. Um, but yeah, like, but yeah, you're expecting me to believe that God wants me to approach him a certain way that's contrary to how my brain actually works. But if you're trying to tell me that I am how he made me, but if he doesn't make sense to me, that's still my fault. It's
Yeah,
like,
it sounds like the typicals made up a religion and then told us it was ours too.
right? Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So if that's how it is, and like there is a God, and he's really like expecting me to connect to him, like in a way that's completely contrary to how he designed me, then uh, my only response is
Yeah.
that's all I got at this point.
What if God is nonverbal autistic?
Hmm.
And that's why we haven't heard.
See, now there's a theory we haven't explored. I
Yeah,
like
like
that.
God is trying to mask for humanity, and he's like trying out all this different stuff. And he's like, well, which one do they even? How do they act? Okay, when they do this thing happens. Okay, I'll do that, and
Ooh,
oh fuck, they've killed me.
that's actually like
He's like,
I kind of love that theory. Like God is nonverbal autistic.
what up, fuckers? We're the chosen people.
Yeah, real autism. Yeah. So
We need to form a papal state. We're just where we
Papal.
where we elect like we just who is the personification of autism among us? We make them the pope.
Ooh.
By the way, Trump is maybe probably very serious about wanting to be pope.
Yeah. He's maybe probably serious about lots of shit.
His brain, Thelma and Louise, recently. It just something.
It already drove off the cliff. Yeah.
He's
We're
going
just
downhill in a big.
yeah.
He's just lying now. Like
No, no, this isn't even downhill. Like I said, this is off the cliff. This is the plummet. That's what we're experiencing right now.
he
He's
forgot
not
how
even
to be
on the hill
Donald
anymore.
Trump. Like he's doing a bad impression of Donald Trump lately. Also, talk
Yeah.
about Christians failing upward throughout the millennia. Donald Trump, the reason why where he is and as rich as he is because he was really good at being bad. Really, he's really good at being awful at things.
Yeah.
Like
Pretty much.
the money he got from his dad, had he just put it and just invested it and not touched it, he would be so much more wealthy than he is right now. He actually lost money trying to
Yep.
do things with it. And
Yep.
he's bad at everything, but he found a way to be the best at being terrible at things. And then a portion
Yeah.
of America was
So,
like, oh, he's our king. He is what it is to be an American in their point. It's like
uh,
electing the most autistic among
yeah.
us.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well,
All
I
right.
didn't mean that as an insult to autistic people.
Yeah.
But
No, I get you. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone else does too. So yeah. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us, or whether you are hanging out with us now or are hanging out with us later as you're watching this on replay. we love you too. Um, yeah. Any other closing thoughts, remarks?
I feel more validated about my church experience.
Oh,
Also made
good.
sense of some small group stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, man. Man, I tell you, it's been like since leaving Christianity, one of the best things I've experienced is being able to get to know myself like on my terms, like and not as in like my terms as in like this is what I want, but more just like no, this is what I am really like in terms of just the context of me, but not how I need to view myself in light of God or Jesus or like, the faith and the religion and
yeah.
all that. But just like how I really am is just how I really am. And that's yeah. I mean,
It's a
certain
really
things
weird
that
experience to find yourself in the last place you thought to look.
right, which is just here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah,
Yep.
so
That's
freeing though, which again gets back to like, why are you such an evangelist for atheism? Like, this is why. Because this is fucking awesome. So
what
see,
Echo is
that's what
mad.
happens when you try to evangelize for atheism. Then like the lights turn off, and
Our Echo has a mind of its own. It's just
yeah, there's that too.
turns certain
All
lights
right,
off and on for no
all
reason.
right. Well, this was fun. I'm yeah. Happy Autism Awareness Month to everybody, to all who observe.
Man, we did this in the most demand avoidant way possible. Waited till the last minute. Or like, it's like, fuck you, autism awareness. I'll celebrate it when I want to. I mean, okay, let's get this. Maybe we should say at the very end.
But yeah, but I guess parting thoughts from me is like, yeah, I left links in the description for the Christianity on the Spectrum. Now, my only caution with like the podcast, like Christianity on the Spectrum, is I'm not saying that they're approaching it this way, but my fear is that a lot of Christians will take it their approach, like especially when they're talking about like why autistic people have problems with Christianity and end up deconverting. My fear is that a lot of Christians will hear that and say, "Oh, well, then here's how we need to present it differently so they don't reject it." It's like,
I don't know. Good fucking luck. That won't work.
yeah, like my recommendation is like, if you are a Christian and you're listening to this podcast, like take our criticisms to heart. Think maybe we actually have a point, and maybe there's just things that because the way our brain works, it's not that our brain is working incorrectly and we're seeing all these things that aren't there. It's like, no, maybe think because of how our brains work, we're seeing things that you aren't seeing, and maybe consider that. But like I said, I don't think that's the approach they're necessarily taking on the podcast. But I like from listening to a few episodes, I'm just afraid a lot of Christians will take that approach to it.
I would say at
So
least that's something. I mean, at least is that
yeah,
Christianity's like version of just starting to notice autistic people.
but
Um,
yeah, I'll take that for
yeah,
sure. But yeah,
it's like
but
it's a
yeah,
move in the right direction, and we have notes.
right, yeah. So basically, if you want to know more, like talk to your friendly neighborhood autism person. That's a word or term
And
or
if they don't
whatever.
want to talk to you, that's fine.
And
They're not being rude. It's just they don't
right,
want. Yeah,
yeah,
talking to
they
you
are
is
not
bad for them, but not not
right.
in
Yeah, yeah. Like I
not in
said,
a
like
bad way.
you may have questions for us, but none of us are obligated to be that person for you that answers all your questions. So now, if people want to come on here and talk to us, we're generally open about it. But yeah,
Although
um,
it would be great if somebody doesn't want to like answer their questions and they just go, "Good for you," and then just walk away.
there's that too. Yeah.
Who's a
So
big boy?
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so please like check out the links I left in the description if you're interested in knowing more about this topic. Some good stuff there. Yeah, and please subscribe, comment if you're watching later. Again, we appreciate all the feedback we got live here tonight. And yeah, tell your friends if you feel comfortable, in whatever way you feel comfortable.
And if you don't have friends, welcome.
Yeah. Tell your enemies.
That could be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Share us out of spite. That would be. I would actually love that.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of like somebody watching who's just confused and offended.
And then feels like someone else in their life needs to be confused and offended as well.
Yeah.
That would make me so happy.
This makes no sense. And just like share it with people.
Yes, please do. For whatever reason. So yeah, that's all I got. So Matt, if you got anything else, otherwise take us out.
May your things and stuff be forever with your people.
All right. See you back here next week, folks. Have a good night and a good week.
Ta-ta.